There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
Really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Yes! Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on a couple of minutes after 6 a.m. on a Friday, June 19th or Juneteenth, as it's now known to many of you. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. You can always chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text line, which is 479-5551, 479-5551. Top of the morning to you, Mark. How are you?
You know what? I'm really good today. Thank you for asking. Great night's sleep. Feel refreshed.
Really?
Yeah, feel good.
Now, see, that's unusual that you know, the really good night's sleep and the catch-up sleep late in the week. Usually that's something that's early to midweek. So this is good for you. Heading into the weekend, you're feeling refreshed, ready to go.
I've been dragging all week. National Bourbon Day was Sunday, which set my week way back.
Yes.
Started this week sometime on Wednesday. Realized Tuesday at 4 o'clock I forgot 10 a.m. Tuesday gymnastics lessons with my daughter that I blame on me for the long day of Monday.
Uh-oh.
She still doesn't know, so we're good. Wife's not really happy with me, but the daughter hasn't figured it out yet, so we're okay.
Gotcha. So when you just go next week.
Well, I think she'll figure it out then.
Okay. That's
Why didn't we go last week, Dad? Because I screwed up.
Dad forgot.
So, I didn't
still feeling the effects.
Didn't sleep well this week. Last night, went all out. Had the wife. I said, do you have any of that tea that's supposed to make me sleep? She's got all those different teas. She likes tea every once in a while, David.
Gotcha.
I don't know if your wife ever does tea.
She's a coffee lady.
Right, as am I, as is my wife. But every once in a while at night, she wants to go, I'm just going to have a cup of tea. It'll help me sleep. So I had some sort of lucid dream tea last night.
Really?
And slept like a damn baby.
Tell you, it sounds illegal.
I know.
like
Nothing's illegal anymore, David. Nothing.
Well, that's true. And if so, just move.
Right.
Probably the neighboring state, it's fine.
And get a prescription.
479-5551, as we mentioned, is how you can chime into the show. 479-5551. We've got a lot lined up for you today. If you don't know, and you may not be keeping track of the rescheduled events, the Belmont is tomorrow.
Correct.
The Belmont Stakes is tomorrow. That means Kurt Becker will join us because, well, if it's a Triple Crown race or a horse racing controversy, you know who joins us? Kurt Becker. Talk a little horse racing.
It's our guy.
Yep. Nikki Collin, head coach of WNBA's Atlanta Dream, will join us. They got a lot going on. I mean, they have to do the very same thing that the NBA players are doing. They're just doing it in Bradenton. NBA's doing it in Orlando. In fact, Nikki's in Sarasota, Bradenton now. Was there yesterday, kind of kicking the tires on their new digs and where they're going to be staying and practicing and all that. So,
she lost a player yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, of all of the sports leagues right now, and you had mentioned that we were going to have her on. And we talked about it during the break yesterday or after the show, not during the show, but we were just kind of talking about that and that the Raptors apparently are going to be training at Alico Arena. And so David and I are just having a conversation about guests for the show. And middle of the day or a little later in the day, I see that Renee Montgomery from The Dream has said, I'm not playing this year to focus on social justice reform work.
And she's the second player to do so because Maya Moore said the same thing much earlier. Much earlier. But
so when you hear of Kyrie Irving, who's not playing this year because he's hurt,
right.
And I'm not one to say he's doing this for any other reason than what he's saying. I don't know. But I also know he's getting paid.
Yes,
and it's a lot easier to sit out and have these type of demands when you're getting your check, telling a bunch of other players to sit out who wouldn't get checks.
Right. And this a max check, by the way. Let's make sure we know. He's not getting a check. He's getting about as big a check as anyone in the league.
And I don't know what WNBA players make, but it's not that much.
No. In fact, if you make six figures, you're making a lot of money in the WNBA.
And it's why, and we've talked about this before, many WNBA players will go play in Europe in the WNBA offseason because the money overseas is far greater than it is here.
Yes.
And so for Renee Montgomery to make that stand, that's not a Kyrie Irving stand. That is, I'm sacrificing my livelihood for this.
Especially since she's a veteran. She's been in the league a while. She's only got a few years left. And to put one of them on the shelf is a big statement. So we'll talk to her head coach about it coming up at 8 o'clock.
So lots going on, but the bigger news here in Florida doesn't have to do with the NBA, the WNBA, the UFC, or the MLS participating in their sports in our fine state. Has to do with the president of the University of Florida making an announcement yesterday. And boy, oh boy, are people angry.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I think they're angry for many reasons. The biggest of which is they don't see the connection.
Right.
I think if they believed that there was a rhyme and a reason to the decision and the announcement to do away with the Gator bait chant and cheer and song and all that, I think if they thought that it was racially insensitive, that I think people would be okay with it. Might be a little bummed. Oh, man, it's going to suck to lose that. That was a fun part of the games, and, that was one of our best cheers, blah, blah, blah. But I think most people, when they heard the announcement yesterday, Mark, went, wait, what? Wait, that has something to do with race?
And I would suggest to all of them to go to the Undefeated and read the story they did about this. Because while the president of the university says he can't find anything that has to do, that the chat has anything to do with race, the history of using black babies as bait for alligators is a factual thing. In Louisiana and in Florida. It's fact. It's not made up. It's factual. Now, I'm not here to say whether what Florida did was right or wrong. I'm just telling you, for those of you that don't get it, it's true. And if it offended 10, 15 black people on the Florida campus, then I'm sorry. Maybe it needs to go away. It's 2 words, and it's a chant. Get over it.
I would like to know, though, if I'm a Gator alum, if I'm a prominent booster, I would like to know, did anybody complain? All right. Or did you guys stumble upon something? Is this because this seems, well, first off, it definitely came out of the blue.
Yes.
I mean, there was no whiff of this happening anywhere, number one. And number two, and also and apparently, what you said is in fact true, but you have to go back 150 plus years to when Gator bait was an expression. And there is one college in the United States that actually has a display talking about what it is that you referenced, Mark. But I got to admit, this, to me, couldn't, and can we talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay. To me, couldn't if somebody were to confront the University of Florida and say, this is racially insensitive, this has racist imagery to it, all right, couldn't you look at them and go, well, okay, one, it was 150 years ago, but two, let's just talk this out logically. We are the Gators. We have nicknamed the place that we play the Swamp. All right. The cheer, the song is all about basically beating our opponents, an intimidating place. You come in here, you get eaten. All right. That's all it is. And that's all it is. I don't think anybody could take it and extrapolate that further. I think that's a reach if you take it further than that. Now, if you then say, well, okay, I'll even grant you everything you just said, but I'm telling you that 100 to 150 years ago, all right, this was the slang, this was the expression that was used, this is actually what took place in this country. I think it's a reach, Mark.
Okay, and David, it may be a reach. And look, I don't know if it have. See, because I'm seeing people in chat rooms go, and I've been to 5-8 Florida Gator games. My recollection of the audience, and I've sat in a few different spots in the Swamp, is about 98% white, if not more. So for Arch to say no one in that stadium ever thought that was it, I don't know. I think these. I'm fine, David. I'll have these conversations for 3 hours. I know our audience doesn't necessarily want us to go this direction, but of course it doesn't make me uncomfortable. It doesn't make you uncomfortable. Your question is probably the best one being asked. How did this come about? Because I know one of the players who, Lawrence Wright, who gets a lot of credit for the phrase, even though it's not his, because the Gator Bait paper was out long before he made the chant, if you ain't a Gator, you must be Gator Bait. Now, he's really ticked off about this. He's a black player. Right. He's also about to launch a whole line of stuff with Gator Bait and his number on it that he's going to profit off of. So let's move Lawrence Wright out of the conversation on this, because he was just about to launch a product. Now, right. I think his product will sell like gangbusters now. If you want to know the absolute truth.
Right. I actually think his business just went
up through the roof. I'd get that on a website tomorrow if I were him.
But I would 479-5551. Listen, I've never heard of one black person complaining about this. And if I was someone at the University of Florida, behind the scenes, I'd say, did anybody ever complain about this? Did anyone ever connect the two images? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question, because first off, the university president had trouble announcing it. I mean, he really did. He did not articulate it well, which didn't help. I think if you're a Florida Gator fan or you're just a casual observer, you're like, well, look at him try to spin this. He can't even do it.
Which leads me to believe it didn't come from him. Someone, the board of regents, whomever.
I understand, but he signed off on it.
I got you.
But, I mean, that's all. And listen, if this had been brought up in the past, all right, by anybody, I'd love to know about it. I really would. I'd love to. Did somebody, at any point in time in the last 50 years, has somebody written a column about it? I mean, was there a formal complaint on campus at any point in time? And I mean, I understand that, I get the Confederacy. I do. I get the complaints about it. I get people wanting to tear down the monuments for it. I get it. I do. All right. I don't think this is that.
And David, like I said in the beginning, I spent a good part of the day yesterday trying to find black players that were upset about it, black fans that were upset about it. I found a lot of white fans that were upset about it, and a lot of white fans that wrote a lot of things. The only black player that I could find that was upset about it was Lawrence Wright, who's also trying to make money off of the phrase. And
it surprised me.
Oh, I fell off the
really
floor.
did.
My phone is not blown. Your phone blows up all the time when things happen, because not only do you have a lot of friends that are sports fans, you have a lot of, I think, listeners and acquaintances who have your number through the years. So when something happens, they go to you. I had one of those moments yesterday. I've never had more text in a 30, 40-minute span from people, Florida fans, just beside themselves angry.
I think, and I don't think that they're bummed because, well, this was fun and we liked it and what have you. I think they're like, well, wait a minute, this one doesn't have anything to do with the other. And if it did, then I think they would reconcile it, if you know what I mean.
And maybe they will reconcile it in a few days. But in the moment yesterday, no one reconciled it. No one saw it coming. No one... I had to spend an hour looking up to see if any of this was true and then find 3 other articles to make sure I was right. Because it's grotesque.
479-5551, 479-5551. That's how you can chime in via the Williams & Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, and you can also chime in. It's an interactive experience when you watch and or listen to the show, Miller and Moulton, on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. Now, obviously, they're not going to go back and rescind this move. I mean, they're not going to. But
no, and the band's not going to play it, but the fans are going to chant it a lot. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you are right. And it'll be interesting to see if the band is then instructed. First off, are we going to have bands at college football games this year?
Yes, David. Yes.
Really?
Well, look back to what we talked about last week or earlier this week. If the kids are back on campus, they can go to the games. Mm-hmm. If the kids are back on campus and the football team's playing, you telling me the band's not playing?
It's possible.
I don't think so.
It's possible. Band doesn't generate any revenue. Football team does. And why would they put the band members at risk?
They can go to school, but they can't play in the band. It's not a risk thing for them. They want to play, just like the football players want to play.
I understand they want to play, but that doesn't mean the university has to let them play.
I think it's a tough. I actually think I think they could get sued for that. Believe it or not, you're gonna tell me I can go to campus, I can live in a dorm, I can go to class, but I can't play in band? That's my major.
Well, you get a lot closer to one another in the band. You know, maybe they will. Maybe I just brought up something
tough to play the sax
preposterous.
through a mask. I will say that.
Well, yeah. There are those that are wondering: are we going to have bands at the games this year?
Drum corps looks solid.
I agree.
Drum corps looks solid.
Like, there were 2 big things to come out of the SEC yesterday. One was the announcement by the University of Florida. The other was the announcement that came out of Birmingham from the SEC, in which they took issue with the state flag of the state of Mississippi, in which they said, listen, you need to change your flag and you need to change it now, or else we're not going to hold any events in the state. Now, they don't mean that they're not going to let Mississippi State and Ole Miss host football games, but I guess any kind of NCAA or SEC tournaments of any kind. And the irony here is that both Ole Miss and Mississippi State have been on record for 5 years now as saying that they want to change the state flag of Mississippi, that they find it racially insensitive and they want to change it. But obviously it has not been done.
But hence, Mississippi.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure they know it's offensive and have no problem keeping it.
Well, obviously the politicians have not felt inclined to change it.
Correct.
So you had the SEC make their announcement yesterday, and you had both schools in the state come forward and go, yeah, we're already on record as saying we want the flag changed. In fact, we were on record in 2015. Greg, you weren't even commissioner yet, I don't believe.
Maybe that's why he didn't know.
So the Mississippi State response was a little annoyed. If you read it closely, I know you can all see things on paper and read it with a certain tone, and you can inflict your own little bias into it. But when I read it, and I read it twice, both times I got the sense that Mississippi State was a little annoyed at this. That somehow it was implied that the schools were also okay with the state flag. And the folks at Mississippi State wanted the record set straight.
Well, I think they were saying a couple of things there. Not just to the SEC, but maybe, just maybe a little bit, saying something to their rival, the Ole Miss Rebels, David.
Right.
Just throwing that out there. Maybe I'm
Right.
nuts.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to change. Changing a flag is one thing. Changing a nickname,
Happens all the time. It's happened a lot recently. There's still one team throughout all of this in the National Football League that has caught no heat here in the last month because no one's even made mention, really, of the Washington Redskins still being the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, it got mentioned a little bit.
But I mean, a little bit.
Like when the NFL came out and the Redskins specifically came out and was talking about, racial equality and all that, and people went, really? The team that's called the Redskins. Okay. Interesting. I'll say this, though. Okay. And listen, he's not changing that name unless the league makes him, and the league has said they're not making him. If for no other reason than the belief is if the name of the team gets changed, the value of the franchise will go down by hundreds of millions of dollars. Whether that's true or not, all right, that is what most people genuinely believe. That franchise will lose $500 million in value by changing the name.
In the National Football League.
I'm just saying.
I know you're just saying. I'm gonna invoke my Colonel Potter. Hogwash. Hogwash, David.
Wow.
Come on. If the
not got
LA
Colonel
Clippers
Potter
are
in a
if
while.
the LA Clippers are worth $2 billion and the Washington Redskins changed their name and now they're worth less than the LA Clippers.
No, that's not what I said.
No,
at all.
you said they'd lose $500 million. What are the Skins
Yeah.
worth?
Well, the Skins are worth more than the Clippers, okay? But the belief is from a business standpoint that if you sold the Washington Redskins, it would sell for $3 billion. If you change them to the Washington Federals, that they would sell for $2.5 billion.
I don't buy it.
But if you're a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, just realize if they come get the Redskins, they're coming for you next. And we're a long way away from going down these roads because the National Football League doesn't want any of their franchises to change any of their names, and then therefore they will not. It's as simple as that. But once again, a very lively off-the-field day in sports. We did have a little something go on the field.
We did.
On the course.
We did.
Yeah. They went low once again on the PGA Tour because, as the expression goes, these guys are good.
Wow. Nothing like a triple bogey to slow you down, Jordan Spieth.
And yet he's still nearly in the
Shoots
lead.
5
My
under.
goodness.
Triples
With
the
a
third
triple.
hole. Shoots 29 on the backside. Par 36, by the way. 29.
Right. On the
Wow.
difficult 9.
Wow.
And more news involving the MLB players and owners. And, well,
And as usual, with the MLB players and owners, it's nothing but happy and joyous news.
right. If you don't want to see Major League Baseball in 2020, Miller and Moulton. The starting 5 is next. Thanks so much for being with us. 25 minutes after the hour here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
A date which will live in infamy. People who knock these buildings down will hear all
Amazing comebacks. Comebacks
Brady has his fifth.
that inspired the American story. And before you know it, another great American comeback story
in stopping the virus
will be in the books.
We will have a great victory.
Our story continues.
And return to our lives, great lives.
On Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Talk about promos I'm sick of hearing.
Kronos, helping businesses attract, retain, and engage employees through cloud-based human capital management. Kronos.com. Kronos, workforce innovation that works.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood. And the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's Express Treatment Plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
Trade in and trade up. Over $500,000 in trade-in assistance up for grabs at Galliana Kia in Fort Myers. 2020 Kia Forte LXS lease, 0 down, $159 per month. 2020 Kia Sorento LX lease, 0 down, $259 per month. Plus, at Galliana Kia in Fort Myers, you can drive interest-free up to 72 months and worry-free for 100,000 miles. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you've got $500 down and you make at least $500 per week, our lenders can get you approved. At Galliana Kia, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com.
You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
36-month lease is 10,000 miles per year.
Archangel, baseball's coming up right now.
Deposit $13.88 per month per thousand borrowed for 72 months at 0 APR with 0 down with lender approval.
Listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work.
Never boring, that's for sure.
Streaming 24/7 at FoxSportsFM.com.
We are Fox Sports. For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and
I know you are.
roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Attention, Southwest Florida. Are you ready for this? Only Naples Nissan will give you $8,000 over Kelly.
Daughter's driving down today.
Good.
Gonna be in town for the weekend for the old
to
man.
choose from, all backed by our exclusive
I said to her, I go, so, you know, nearly die of cancer, have emergency surgery, and so, you know, you'll come down for Father's Day. You figure it's the last one.
Value for your trade-in, and we'll give you $8,000 more, so you can drive that
She'd
brand
appreciate
new
that
Nissan
very
home
much.
today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000.
No sense of humor anymore.
Nobody does, David.
KBB says $10,000. We'll give you $18,000. You must act fast, though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
Here we go! Now back to Miller and Moulton.
No.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
It's 6:30, right on the nose. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Make sure you download the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. Very interactive chat rooms this morning. Very fired up about this gator bait story, to say the least. Without further ado, time now for
the starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Mark, it is the baseball hour after all. We got called out in our chat room. Hey, it's the baseball hour. Talk some baseball. Huh, okay. Well, the players responded to the owner's proposal by saying 60 games is not enough. How about 70, 72, 74? And, Rob Manfred rejected it right away. They also, the players did, wanted some kind of playoff revenue sharing, if not this year, but next year. So, the players wanted a little something for their effort. They didn't want the owners getting all the extra playoff revenue. And, so much for that great 4-hour meeting. Remember now, Mark, officially the owners have gone from 48. That's their lowest total. They started at 54.
And went down. Right.
They went down to 48.
Sorry, David, but that is really the moment in which you should have known, and we actually did on this show. And David Sampson told us we were crazy. Because we said, hey, when someone has 54 and someone has 90 or whatever the players read initially, and 54 goes to 48, that doesn't seem to be how we negotiate. Right. No, that's negotiations 101. No, that's piss off the other side 101.
Yes,
that's really what it is. They just looked at the players and said, F you, here's the direction we're going in. You're going to play baseball, shut up. And from that, not that things were good before that, but nothing has even come close since then. That's what happened with that negotiation. That, to me, was the spark that put this up in flames.
So they were separated by just 10 games. Owners proposed 60. Players asked for 70. Rejected. Out of hand. Period. Not even worthy of discussion. And so Rob Manfred is back to, give it a couple days, but then I'm going to have to implement what the season is going to be. And the season won't be 60. I'll tell you that if I implement it. So if I'm the players at this point, I'm going to stare down the owners some more. I really am. First off, we've done it this long. Secondly, I'm going to look at the owners and I'm going to say to Rob Manfred, you get this point across to the 30 yahoos that you represent. All right? We're asking for 10 more games. And that's the difference between us filing a grievance or not. 10 more games. Figure out how much the 10 games will cost you. And figure out how much the grievance will cost you.
Because it's clear as bell in the latest thing that with the 70 games, there's no grievance. Right. They're waiving all rights to a grievance. And
Correct.
That apparently, the games was the number one thing for the players. The grievance has become the number one thing for the owners. Right. So the players have given the owners what they want. Guys, this is what we call negotiation. This is give and take. Right. And the owners, by and large, haven't given a damn thing. Every one of their proposals has looked as a mirror image of the previous proposal, moving the games around slightly. The players have come a long way on a lot of issues. They're holding firm on wanting 70 games played.
Right.
That's their issue.
They want to make a little more money.
Yes.
They only get paid if they play. We need a little more money out of this. And Rob Manfred couldn't reject it fast enough. So there we are.
And
that's where the two sides are.
David, I don't know if you found this fascinating, ridiculous. I don't even know what the adjective is to describe it. But when I was reading through basically Manfred's synopsis of his meeting with Clark, help me here. Now, David, if you and I negotiate something for Miller and Moulton, we can negotiate it and sign it right there because Miller, Moulton, we got all the parties involved.
Right. We haven't found that a private investor yet to help us out.
But if you were representing everyone named Moulton and everyone related to someone named Moulton, and I were representing all my Miller clan, and we were sitting down to negotiate, we would have to, after we came to some sort of an agreement, go, I think we got something here. Let me go back to my team and see if they're good with all of this. And you would say the same thing. How in the hell could Manfred think that he was going through point by point and this was a deal. I mean, that is the biggest bunch of garbage I've ever read, David. He's a lawyer. He's got to know better than that.
Right. Once again, it's PR. The Manfred specifically and the owners have one of the rare times gotten beaten up in these negotiations publicly. They have taken the brunt of the bickering between the two sides, and they never take the brunt. It's always the players that get dumped on by the fans and by the media. Not this time around. So here's a chance. Little did Tony Clark realize that apparently what Rob Manfred flew to Arizona to tell him was an ultimatum. And that's essentially what Manfred's now saying. It wasn't a negotiation, it was an ultimatum. Because you can't change what I threw out on the table. That's it. It's either that or I implement something less than that.
Which goes back to what we talked about yesterday, David, is that Manfred has no power as a commissioner. He was there with his marching orders of what he could do.
Right. And he got on the plane after he was able to arm wrestle a few owners and get it up to 60. And what he's basically saying to Tony Clark and the players is, I can't get you a game more than 60. And Tony Clark and the players are going, that's BS. That's ridiculous. We're waiving our right to file a grievance, to win hundreds of millions of dollars.
We're waiving our right to win a grievance.
Yes.
I mean, is really how it should be said.
Yes. And we're going to win this, and it's going to take 5 years, and you're going to pay our legal fees. That's how big we're going to win this, because that's how we always win these. We kill you after the fact in court. All you guys do is write us checks after the fact. Look it up. But that's okay. Very quietly, the NBA laid off 100 people yesterday. Just throwing that out there. I mean, this is a nearly $9 billion industry. Now, granted, they've lost some China money.
A lot of it.
Months. Yeah, about $2 billion worth. And obviously, they're losing some revenue here, losing games, losing out on fans and all that. And so the NBA, very quietly yesterday, laid off 100 people. Just worth noting. Jamal Adams is a standout safety for the New York Jets, and he doesn't want to be anymore.
No, he doesn't.
No. He hasn't been quiet about it either. He wants to get paid, and the Jets have yet to pay him, and so he wants out. He's a good player, but he's a very good player, but he's a safety. And I don't know what the market is in terms of, the Jets are going to want a first-round pick and more.
Right. He's due to make a little less than 8 this year and a little over 9 next year, I think, if I read that right.
Yeah, it might even be a little less than that. Yeah. I thought I saw he's making like 12 and a half over the next 2.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's not a ton of money.
No, but it's his rookie deal. So yeah, you're going to...
Right. He's in the Mahomes, Christian McCaffrey draft class. Deshaun Watson, it's like, hey, we can renegotiate these contracts now. I've overachieved, and, I need to get paid. Christian got paid in Carolina. Pat's going to get paid in Kansas City. Deshaun's going to get paid in Houston. It's my turn. And the guy who's the GM of the Jets, he didn't draft him.
And he's saying, like, you're talking about a running back and 2 quarterbacks. You're a safety. I don't even know what your value is in this league anymore.
And not only that, we're not even 500 with you on the field. And you're really good. Don't get me wrong. You're our best player. But I don't know what to tell you. So he sent the Jets a list of 7 teams. Trade me to one of these 7 teams. Huh. Like Joe Douglas and the Jets have to abide by that list. Like Joe Douglas and the Jets have to trade him.
Well,
because he has to be traded.
I give the player a lot of credit for the lip service he's giving, but I don't think he has any understanding of what a rookie deal is. He has no say. He can't say these 7 teams. They can trade him wherever the hell they want. There's nothing in this contract that says that they can't.
Right.
So
this isn't baseball.
Shut up.
You're not a 10-5 guy.
Yeah, but you're not on that contract when you can start putting no trade clauses in, for crying out loud.
Right. Yeah.
You're a rookie, dude. Yeah. You're in your rookie deal. We'll send you wherever we want. If you want out, we'll get rid of you.
Right.
But I think the odds of them getting rid of him are pretty slim because of what you talked about. I don't know who's going to give up a first-rounder for a safety.
I think the Cowboys would, to be honest with you. I think the Cowboys would give up their first-round pick in next year's draft right now for Jamal Adams. I don't think they'd give up more, and I think the Jets want more. I think the Jets want like a 1 and a 3. But Adams is from Dallas, has talked about, and the Cowboys have had a problem in the back line for a while. And remember, Jera's all in to try to win that Super Bowl.
Yes, he is.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers have an assistant coach who tested positive for the coronavirus, and 2 other staffers have been quarantined because of the coronavirus. As we mentioned last segment, Florida puts an end to the use of the Gator bait cheer and song because of its racist imagery that most of us were unaware of. The SEC has warned the state of Mississippi, better change your flag or we're not going to hold events in your state. Of course, I don't know how many events they were holding in the state besides Mississippi and Mississippi State playing home games. But, well, and Pitt and West Virginia, Mark, have announced that they'll continue to play basketball against one another. They've extended that contract, but
So go ahead. I'm waiting.
And the big scheduling story.
Making sure you didn't miss the scheduling thing.
No.
I mean, if you led with Pitt, West Virginia football over this, and if that was the fact, that's why you caught me. I was like, what? They're actually going to play football again like they're supposed to? Sorry. I thought you know.
No, just basketball.
Just a tease. I'm paying attention.
Alabama and Ohio State, 2 pretty good football programs, have decided they're going to do a home and home against one another in 2027 and 2028. The first game will be in Columbus. And I will say this, if you hate the Buckeyes, don't look at their non-conference scheduling for the next 10 or so years. Because basically, if you have a pulse, they're playing you. They got home and homes with Oregon, Washington, Notre Dame, Georgia, and Alabama. That's their non-conference scheduling over the next 10
Yeah, so don't knock them for Cincinnati and Ohio after that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They can play Bowling Green, Toledo, Ohio,
right,
Cincinnati, whatever you want.
Out loud. Oregon, Washington, Notre Dame, Georgia, and Alabama. That's who they've signed home and home deals with.
You know, they just had one with Oklahoma recently.
Right. They did Texas, remember?
Right.
Trestle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you say a lot of things, but
the Buckeyes and the Wolverines have always done a really good job of playing good non-conference competition.
Absolutely. Golf at the RBC. It's Hilton Head, the Heritage. Ian Poulter, Mark Hubbard are your leaders at 7 under par. 7 golfers, 1 shot back, including Victor Hovland and Webb Simpson. I was on him a week too soon. Jordan Spieth and Tony Finau are 2 shots back. The 3 golfers that were prominently mentioned in terms of good value for DFS: DJ 3 under, Kisner 3 under, Matt Kuchar 1 under. Those were our 3 value picks.
Loved DJ. Loved DJ this week, and like the fact that David, our little thing that we're in there. Tony Finau, as you mentioned, 5 under.
Yes, yeah, we had a Tony Finau sighting. It's nice to see that. The Belmont's tomorrow. It's a 10-horse field. The race will only be 1 mile and an eighth. Normally it's 1.5 miles. Tiz the Law, T-I-Z, Tiz the Law is your favorite at 6-5. There are 4 other horses that are less than 10-1.
And everyone thinks that this is Tiz the Law and nobody else. I'm sure Kurt Becker will say the same thing. Reading and watching, the best way to do this is stick this sucker on top, play some exactas, maybe try box wheel it and throw some things underneath, and maybe you can get some value if, 4 left at 30-1 somehow sneaks in or something like that. Yep, I went exacta and try box wheel in the starting 5, David.
And finally, Renee Montgomery of the Atlanta Dream is going to sit out this season and going to work on social justice measures instead. And she is the second prominent WNBA player to do so. Maya Moore announced much earlier that she was going to sit this year out and work on off-the-court matters more so than her basketball. And we'll talk to Renee's coach, Nikki Collin, coming up at 8 o'clock right here on Miller and Moulton. But Mark, at 15 minutes before 7, that is
the starting 5. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
We'll recap yesterday's poll question and have a new one for ourselves coming up. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Thanks so much for listening and making us part of your day. Miller and Moulton on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
So as you're finishing those things up, I typically just kind of look at, on my Twitter, because it's on a computer screen. You've got yours on your phone. There's a big thing on the right that says what's happening, and it's kind of the trending things. U.S. protests, COVID-19, and then I see boycott AMC. Why are we boycotting AMC? I click. Well, did you see the rationale behind it?
The Dan Patrick Show.
Is this because of the cop show?
No, AMC is the movie theater company.
Oh, AMC Cinemas, yeah.
Yeah, AMC says the cinemas won't require masks upon reopening because they didn't, and I quote, want to be drawn into a political controversy.
Right.
Now, many homeowners
You're joking, right?
feeling the effects of the hidden damage that occurred to their tile roof.
I mean, look at it. As I've said before, I'm a registered Republican. I wear a mask everywhere right now. Everywhere. And I have no pre-existing conditions. I'm as healthy as a fat guy can be.
Your tile underlayment can be compromised, but you would not realize it until possibly years later. Now with Cathedral Roofing Innovations, you get a great roof.
Good interview with him on Dan Patrick yesterday.
And just because you don't have leaks doesn't
Best
mean
question
you don't have
Patrick
issues.
asked him.
Just go to Cathedral.
Would you send your kid to school in the fall?
They are the tile experts in Naples.
Wait, what's that last part?
Fauci was on with Dan Patrick yesterday. Right. And of the whole interview, football, he started asking him if he's allowed to. Just one for my wife. Can I drink beer? I mean, you know Patrick. He's such a good interviewer. But he did say he was skip football right now. If your son, daughter, were entering college, would you be comfortable sending them to college in the fall?
After a hurricane damaged the old one.
And I thought Fauci's answer is it depends on where. He was, where are they going to college? There's a lot of places I could tell you no, not under any circumstances. But there are other places that I would have no problem. We can't, and he just kind of said, we can't look at this country as one place right now. We've got to be a little smarter than that. So I thought it was.
These are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important.
So what are we
to a guy's
thinking for a
mood
poll question?
than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood, and the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a
No,
great
I don't know.
Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood
Ah.
improves once they get treated, and everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference. C4MH.com.
I'd rather be a little light and not, I don't want the Gator thing. I mean, we know how people feel about it. Trying to think of something almost a little fun, like by Monday, what's most likely to happen? MLB cancels their season.
Affordable and above all safe.
MLB comes to a deal.
West Florida. There's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Listen to Miller and Moulton at home on your Amazon
Those could be the two choices.
I think they are. I was trying to think of an NBA or an NHL or something to throw in with it.
FM on TuneIn.
Or, I mean, more time wasted.
Right. I mean, to you, to your, well, the other day, there's part of me that would love to know, are you wearing a mask everywhere right now?
DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida.
And I know it's not the show for that. I'm fascinated. Because, yesterday, Tim Reynolds put out that thing about all the cases going up in Florida, and he's right. But the hospitalizations are going up. I mean, I'm fascinated by what happens in the next 2 weeks. Because it will determine, I think, the way the country goes. I like the first one.
Back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Have to wait for the screen.
I love that return. I was early on it. I usually lip sync the scream. It's one of my favorite parts of the day.
10 minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Kurt Becker will join us in about 40 minutes to handicap the Belmont. Try to make you some money. It's the least we could do. Try to contribute to the cause. Poll question yesterday, are you for or against the universal DH in baseball? Because it's coming. It's just a matter of when.
Yes. And do we get it for 8 weeks, a year off, and then permanently, or do we just get it? Is it coming with whatever this abbreviated season is and never goes away again?
Right. If Manfred has to implement a season, we're just going to get it for this year. And then we'll play by the old rules next year. And then when we negotiate a new CBA, it'll be universal DH from 2022 forward. But part of the negotiations between the players and the owners is to begin a universal DH now, forever. Just go this year and next year, take us to the new CBA, and then we all know we ain't going back. 53% of you are for it.
I was a little surprised. I was surprised we had a majority, David, because I just thought that there were a lot of baseball fans that aren't anymore. And the response was pretty good, which leads me to believe that, we had our usual participation. And actually, I think that's good. David, I actually think these results are good for baseball. And I told you, you've beat me down a little bit in the last week with how hot you are at Manfred baseball for not getting this done. And you are justified in every damn thing you're saying, David. I'm not at all trying to disparage your words. But you had me convinced almost that you were every baseball fan. And as I've talked to more baseball fans, it seems to me that...
Oh, no, I'm in the minority.
Maybe, but you're certainly not in the majority. It's 50-50 at best.
Fans are lapdogs. I mean, and I say this as a fan.
Right.
I'm a lapdog too. Now, not about everything, but I mean, come on. I lay down and roll over for many things that the sports world wants. Absolutely. Fans, we're speed bumps at best.
No, you're right.
And so, no, fans are like, oh, just give me baseball. I'll take baseball. Give it to me any way I can get it. Just give me baseball. No, that's how most fans are. I'm angry. And
about baseball, too.
Right. 53% were for the universal DH, 27% against it. And the biggest shock in our poll question, Mark thought I'm done watching baseball was actually going to win the poll.
I did.
And it turns out it actually finished dead last. 20%.
Last.
Still, 1 out of 5 of you that responded said, I'm not watching baseball. And if you're baseball, obviously you would like to change that. So that was yesterday's poll question. Thanks so much for voting. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, MillerandMoulton.com. Today's poll question, I think we're going to have a little bit of fun. All right. There'll be a tongue-in-cheek poll question heading into the weekend.
Yeah, more along the lines of by Monday, which will have happened?
Right.
Baseball will have a deal. Baseball will have canceled the season. And I do think we have a third choice because Archangel in our Twitch chat room just said lawyers don't work on weekends. I think that's part 3. That they just kicked the damn can down the road. And we have Monday with exactly the same situation that we had Friday. Now,
I don't think canceling the season's a legitimate option. I mean, even Manfred has said, all right, lately, he goes, I'll implement something. Okay, I think the two choices are, do they negotiate a deal or by Monday?
Is one shoved down their throat?
Yeah, does Manfred just say this is what the season's going to be? Remember, what did the players say to him a week ago? Tell us where and when.
And
okay.
And as David pointed out for a couple of days, and he's right for the record, and as he said, look up the history. If they go with shoving it down the player's throat and implementing their 50, 48 game, 60 game, whatever it is season, they're doing so while the grievance can still be filed by the players.
Right.
And I have to believe that those 8 owners right now that don't want to play the season for whatever reason are scared blankless over the grievance.
I mean, listen, 6% of the season. That's really what the owners are willing to go to war over? I mean, 10 games is 1/16 of the season. That's 6%. Really? Really? I mean, listen, you're at 60, they're at 70. We can't meet at 65? Really? 66? Nice round number? Come on. Fine. We'll give you another week's worth of games.
I will say when it comes to how you've been, why can't we play doubleheaders? I think it does water the sport down if we're going to be playing 4 games in 3 days. I think that's stupid. The more I've thought about a lot of doubleheaders just so we can get games in, No. I'm not devoting 6-7 hours to my team twice a week so they can play doubleheaders.
Well, but you're not going to do it anyway, and most people aren't going to do it. I mean, the games would get played at 1 or at 4 o'clock. Most people aren't watching. They're not home.
Right.
They're working.
Again, right. That doesn't help my TV partners. It really helps one entity, the players. It doesn't help the owners, doesn't help the TV partners. It helps the players. I think it's ridiculous.
Okay. Well, remember, it was the owners who wanted this to be a partnership. The owners were the ones that wanted the players to take on some of the loss. So it's funny. So if the players come back and go, well, meet us halfway.
David, I'm just talking from a fan. I'm just talking from a baseball fan. I think the idea of the doubleheader is of having 2 doubleheaders for every team a week, or 1, 3 every 10 days. I just don't think it's a good idea.
1 minute.
That's all.
I say you throw in 1 doubleheader a week. You're going to play for what, 10 or so weeks? There's your 10 extra games.
And David, 1 a week I could live with. Make sure it's a twilighter. Don't give me any of this 1 and 7 crap.
I agree. Well, there's no reason to have 2 separate gates. You're not going to have anybody at these
right. Let me,
games.
Let them play. If I want to stay up till 11:30 to watch both, that's on me. But I can come home from work theoretically, and I'm in the 3rd inning. I'm all in.
Right.
All in.
I think about the fan driving home from work and
listening on the radio. Right.
Yeah.
No. That I'm into. Give me a Thursday night, twilight doubleheader once a week. I'm okay with that.
All right. Glad to see I got you to come around. All of a sudden, you're anti-doubleheader.
No, you were earlier in the week. Well, every 3-game series could be a 4. I'm against that.
All right, fair enough.
That's all.
Miller and Moulton. Kurt Becker, next hour, we'll preview the Belmont chance to win you some money.
We are Fox Sports.
Great news, Southwest Florida. Below invoice employee pricing is back.
And Arch, I would argue with your second point completely. It doesn't show who's worried about it. It's just, I think it's common decency right now. I'm trying to put other people at ease. I'm trying to put the worker at Publix who has to be there. So I'm not breathing anywhere near that girl. That's my point with it. I actually just think a mask right now is common courtesy. And if you can't breathe in it all that well, I don't know what to tell you, because, get a different one would be my first bit of advice to you. And you don't have to wear it that long. You go in the store, you go out of the store. Take it off when you get in the car.
Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day.
That's all.
Call 239-481-2600.
And coughing and chasing people away, I hope to God you're joking.
42 months, 10,000 miles per year.
Because that's something that's going to get you videoed and get put on social media and get beat down by the public if you try to do something like that. Because people are losing their jobs for doing crap like that.
So sit back and
then I'd stick with that, Arch.
It's the best.
Enjoy the banter.
Talks and sports, that's the game.
Enjoy the conversation that makes you think.
I would not think about ripping him.
What are you talking about?
Enjoy all of this.
Love it. Embrace it.
Then it great. And let's not forget.
Because we're doing it all for you.
You just watch. We're going to do it.
And do it often.
We're Fox Sports Radio.
At Wink News, we've invested millions in the technology that shows you approaching storms. First, fast, and local.
And during hurricane season, we know the weather is what you're watching for.
We've got tools no other station has to show you what you need to know to keep your family safe.
At Wink Weather, our mission comes down to one thing.
Your peace of mind.
The best equipped, most experienced weather team. Trust Wink News, the weather authority.
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. 103.3 Fox Sports Radio.
We are Fox Sports.
Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health. C4MH.com.
I got something.
Okay.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
I'm really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple minutes past 7 o'clock on this Friday morning. Hope you've had a good week. Thanks for wrapping it up with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. You can always chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551, 479-5551. If you miss any part of the show, every hour gets its own podcast, or as we call it, the Connecticut Cast. Thanks to Connecticut, Quality Water Systems of Southwest Florida, best damn water that Miller and Moulton have ever had, and it's why combined we've been customers for over 30 years. Connecticut, 908-2300. That's if you're interested in great water. I mean, if you want mediocre water, keep doing what you're doing.
Who'd want mediocre water?
I'm with you. I am with you. Can we extrapolate something out here? We mentioned in the starting five that Alabama and Ohio State scheduled a home and home against one another. Now, it's 7 years down the road, but it's something to look forward to. I mean, you saw Alabama and Ohio State fans on Twitter yesterday that were like, oh, my goodness, tell me when tickets go on sale. I'll line up 5 years early for
you
this
could
game.
Sell those tickets now. Whatever the face value is in Columbus or Alabama for these games, Tuscaloosa, whatever they're charging today, it's 8 years from now, you could quadruple the face value. Hell, you could multiply it times 10 right now and tell people they were not allowed to scalp the tickets, and if they were, it was punishable by 10 years in jail, and they would sell out in 4 seconds. 4 seconds. I wanted to buy tickets to Alabama, Ohio State yesterday, David.
I get you. So, didn't you find it interesting, though, that they would schedule a home and home against one another? Because what is the sport going to look like in 7 years? Because right now, you could argue, Mark, in which if somebody in the room says, Ohio State called us. They want to do a home and home. I say we do it. And nobody could give you a ton of grief if you're the one in the room going, aren't we going to see them in the playoff? Why do we want to potentially schedule a loss when, until proven otherwise, the most important category is not the left column, it's the right column?
Let me give you a couple answers to that specific question, David. When are these games going to be played?
2027 and 2028.
When does the current deal for the playoff expire?
At the end of the 2026 season.
Interesting that these dates of when they're going to play are then there. Because, David, I think I can say without a shadow of a doubt that there will be 8 teams in the playoff come that year. Guaranteed. I also could make a bold prediction that by the time the 2027 season comes around, that the Big Ten and the SEC will no longer be playing anyone but Power 5 schools. And certainly will not be playing FBS schools by then.
Well, I would agree with that. I don't think I'd agree with they're only going to play Power 5s. I think they'll only play Division 1As. All right. But
hell, David, by the time we get to 2027, sorry to interrupt, Power 5 could be the only Division 1As.
Well, now you make a dadgum good point. But it was why I brought it up, Mark. Now, granted, and Georgia has a home and home schedule with Ohio State after Alabama. It's either I think it's in 2030 and 2031. They do a home and home. Ohio State still has 2029 open.
If anybody's looking,
if the Niners
Florida,
are looking for a game,
Florida, LSU.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I mean, if you're Florida, you want to play
Auburn,
Ohio State, want to play them in Orlando? Or you could schedule 2029, 2032.
That's what you do. And the thing about this that I'm going to give two schools more credit for these games than maybe they deserve. But it's Georgia and Notre Dame. Because the last 2 years of the Georgia-Notre Dame game had so much to do with how we looked at the college football playoff for damn near the whole year. And by everybody's account in South Bend, it was a terrific time. I know for a fact in Athens it was amazing. That home and home got more pub, David, from the standpoint of what home and homes bring to the university than the Oklahoma-Ohio States, the Ohio State-Texas, than really any other home and home we've had in the last decade. For whatever reason, that Georgia-Notre Dame game, maybe because it was on NBC alone the first time, 2 primetime games, that resonated with the college football fan base.
And I think it was because it was a school from the South going north, which those schools never do. And then it was also Notre Dame heading into the South, not to play a one-off in Jacksonville or Orlando.
Or Atlanta.
No,
right.
no. They're going to go on the road. They're going to play a true road game, and they're going to do it in the South, and they're going to say, hey, we can play with you boys. All right. And
they did.
They did. Yeah, both times. All right. Lost 2 close games. But it was why I brought it up, that the fact that they would even schedule one another, Alabama and Ohio State, to me, you need to look beyond the home and home series. What does it mean? And it means, Mark, where you went.
8 teams.
Right? Which is by then especially. Now, in between now and then, Ohio State's got home and homes with Oregon and Washington and Notre Dame.
But, I mean, let's be honest. Oregon and Washington are in the Pac-12. They're not allowed to play in the college football playoff.
Well,
unless they go undefeated.
They are, and I will say that Mario Cristobal, if he stays, is from a recruiting standpoint beginning to do what Pete Carroll did when he was at USC. Oregon's 1 year away from making Bud Elliott's list in terms of the blue chip list, which if you're on the blue chip list, then you have enough talent that you can win the national championship. And Oregon's right there, and they're going to be on it a year from now. And so Cristobal is really, and Washington's already on it, by the way, from a blue chip standpoint. Most people, I think they would find that surprising, but there are actually a few schools. Now they haven't won the big games. You know, Oregon lost to Auburn, Washington lost to Auburn. You know, they can't win the big non-conference game. And it's why how fascinating this year that Oregon hosts Ohio State, and are they going to be able to, A, play the game, but B, play it before any fans? One of the great home field advantages in the sport. And when they get the big boy at their place, they may do it in front of 10,000 people in the band.
Or not the band.
Or not the 10,000
Check out
people.
the 6 o'clock hour on the Connecticut cast as we dive deep into college bands.
Right. I think it needs to be brought up. They're already discussing whether or not bands are going to be at the games.
The band is not on the field or in the stands, but they are allowed to come to campus and give us money so that they can go to class.
Now, let me ask you this.
Who plays the anthem if there's no band? Sorry, David.
What?
Who plays the anthem if there's no band? Now I got a piped-in anthem?
Yeah. First off, will there even be an anthem?
College, yes.
Well, I agree. And
I think there'll be one in every game period. I don't think what was talked about on our show last week, our NBA guy there, Smith.
Yeah, Keith Smith.
Keith Smith made the comment that he doesn't know if we're going to play the anthem going forward. And we talked for a moment that was going to be our poll question the next day. I ended up reading 16 articles on it over the course of 4 hours. There's no way in hell we're going to quit playing the anthem.
Well, I agree.
No way in hell.
I agree. Now, I do think it's possible what he talked about, which is that the games in Orlando, if there are 4 or 5 scheduled in a row, you may only have the anthem played before the first one.
That I agree with, because it's Summer League.
Right.
It's glorified Summer League. We're going to play the anthem. We play 5 games, and we'll do the same thing tomorrow.
Right.
NHL may be doing the same thing wherever they are in their hubs. Makes a lot of sense.
But back to Bama and Ohio State. So we believe that the next TV contract, 2026 and beyond, that we'll have an 8-team playoff.
Yes.
Okay. Therefore, these home and homes. See, Alabama, Ohio State is sexy today. It's really sexy today because we only have 4 teams. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a great game. It'll be fantastic to see, the Crimson emerge from the tunnel in the shoe. All right. And then to see the Scarlet and Gray emerge in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Both games will be in prime time. It'll be awesome. It'll look great. It'll be like, this is college football. But from a ramification standpoint, how much is it really going to mean?
Well, David, I think
an 8-team playoff.
I think when we go to 8, division champs are going to get in. There's going to be 5, perhaps 5 teams that are automatically in.
Division champs?
Conference champs.
Okay.
Sorry.
Gotcha.
Had my NFL moment. The organization in college in their division, David. I'm sorry.
I just thought you had leaders and legends on the brain, and I'm like, wow, we're going to let them both in? Damn.
Just the legends. Now, I think conference champs, there'll be a caveat, as we've always talked about. But I think when you go to 8, they're going to make sure that the Pac-12 and the Big 12 don't get left out. I just don't see how that happens.
I agree.
I do think that if you're Alabama or Ohio State and you lose that game and then lose your conference, or if you both lose your conference, one of you is out. That game could determine who goes and who doesn't. I know you're trying to think that the implications are less, but I think they are going to be slightly less. But I do think because of conference champions getting in, that would be my guess, that you're still only talking about 3 spots. And I don't think we can say that Alabama and Ohio State are locked in to 2 of those 3 every year. They could be. One of them will be. But I think it could mean who's out.
Do we think Nick Saban is going to Columbus in 2027?
No, I thought that was the first question you were going to ask me. I really did. When you were going through being in the room going, why do we play this? I'm going, Nick's back there. I don't care. I'm not going to be here anyhow.
I believe Nick will be in his mid-70s.
Right.
Now,
possible. Nope.
Doesn't mean he can't still be coaching. All right. But just, throwing that out there, do we think that Nick Saban is going to be leading the Crimson Tide out of the tunnel in the shoe? And I would probably bet no. It would be something if that's like the first game for the new coach. I mean, it'd be like, wow, hey, thanks for this. Appreciate the parting gift. Now, I do appreciate all the recruits you left me.
Boy, Lane Kiffin going to Columbus for that game?
Dabo going to Columbus?
No, Lane. Dabo's not going to Bama.
Lane's not either. Alabama's not calling Lane.
Hey, they called Rich Rodriguez. I don't know what to tell you, David.
Yeah, Nick's going to have a little say, I have a feeling, into who replaces Nick. All right, and it ain't going to be Lane Kiffin. 479-5551. 479-5551. That's the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Kurt Becker will join us in 15 minutes. We will handicap the Belmont. Yes, that's right. A chance to make a few shekels this weekend. The Belmont, the first of the Triple Crown races.
When's the Preakness?
I don't know.
Have they given us a date for the Preakness?
Yes, they have. I think it's 2 weeks after the Derby.
It's after the Derby.
I believe so.
You're right. Saturday, October 3rd.
Oh, no, it's a month after.
It's a month after. So we go June, nothing in July, nothing in August. Labor Day weekend Derby, October 3rd, the Preakness Stakes.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go. We go Belmont, Derby, Preakness.
I don't know if they, because the Belmont shortened It's a mile and an eighth. It's usually a mile and a half.
Half.
So this is the same length. Actually, it's a little shorter even. Is the Preakness a mile and an eighth?
No.
I think it's a mile and 3/8, right?
It's a mile and 3/16.
3/16. There you go. 1 furlong more than a mile and a quarter, everybody. I'm wondering if they're going to change the Preakness. Will it be longer? Would be interesting to have the short. They're going to keep it the shortest race in October.
I think so. Hey, listen, if you're the Preakness, though, you're just hoping for, can we get one horse to win the first 2 legs? I mean, we've always been stuck in the middle. To have a chance for a Triple Crown at our track.
So what you're saying is the Preakness has the Derby on the left side and the Belmont on the right, and they're stuck in the middle with you?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Nice song there.
It is.
In the middle with you.
It is.
Know.
And then you watch Reservoir Dogs, and you can never hear that song the same way again.
No, you can't.
I mean, it is one of the. If you've never seen the movie, you have no idea what I'm speaking of. If you've seen the movie, you go, yep. Every time that song comes on, now all I can think is that guy in the knife. You're damn right.
In the state of Florida, the big sports story yesterday was the University of Florida putting an end to them playing the Gator Bait cheer and song. It was deemed to have racist imagery because apparently back many years ago in 2 states, Louisiana and Florida, it was practice. It happened occasionally. I'm not quite sure, but that black babies were used as, quote, gator bait.
Correct.
To feed alligators.
And it's and if you read, it's actually even worse than that. I don't know how you could hear that and say, could something actually be worse? But trust me, I spent most of my afternoon reading up on this, trying to figure out, because I knew what we would talk about. It's worse.
It caught many a Gator fan off guard. I'm not a Gator fan. It caught me off guard. I see it as a bit of a reach. Personally, I've never heard of anyone complaining. I would love to know. It's my understanding that the board that came up with this at the University of Florida just did it on their own, that no one complained about it. I see the connection, although it took me a long time to see the connection, to be blunt. I think, however, we could talk this out rationally and go, come on now. Our school is known as the Gators. We play in a place that we call the Swamp. All right. The chant and the cheer is what it is. As the one player jokingly said a few years ago, you come into the Swamp. If you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait. I mean, I think we all know what we're getting at here. Tough place to play. You're going to come in. We're going to beat you. It's just an expression. There's no harm meant with this whatsoever. All right. But that was deemed not to be enough.
Yeah, I don't know, David, going forward, we're going to have a lot of difficulty getting away with, I didn't mean anything by that phrase. That doesn't work anymore.
Well, but I do think it's a worthy discussion of having. Okay, if there's no connect, if the song, if the cheer, if the chant came about, A, a century later, and B, having nothing to do with what it is that you're bringing up, then why are you connecting the two? I mean, I do think that's a legitimate question to ask.
I agree. My only point is that my only answer to you, David, is, and I look at, obviously the phrase doesn't offend me, but what you said was, I don't mean any offense by it. I just don't know going forward if phrases that we don't mean any offense by offend people. Should we take caution to what it is we're saying? That's all, David.
Well, but then, I mean, you do know the slippery slope that you
yes,
then go down.
I do.
Here. If you have 1 million people in a room and 8 people are offended, are we then going to change what it is we're doing because 8 people are offended? That's the slippery slope that some are worried about. Okay, if I was in the room and this came up, I would have been like, "Can you help me here?" All right. It's obvious that I don't see what you see, but have we had complaints? All right. Has this ever been accused of us before? Or are we extrapolating in a way that, quite frankly, no one else is extrapolating, including those that we believe have been grieved by this and are offended by this? I mean, I would say, has anybody been offended by this? I mean, if we're going to change this, please tell me that someone has complained. Someone. At any point in time. That's what I would have asked in the room, because otherwise I don't see the connection between the two, with the exception of the phrase. Now, they said that's all you need. We just don't want that.
The imagery that goes along with the phrase, when you look it up, is something that we're not comfortable with.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's really what, when you read the statement, he didn't say it very well, because I didn't, but you saw him speaking, it didn't come off very well.
No.
When you read the statement, it simply says that we didn't think we did anything racial here, but when you look this up, the racial connotations are horrible, and we don't want to be associated with that. That's essentially what Florida said yesterday.
Yes. The president did not articulate it that well, which I don't think helped his cause, because he and they are getting a lot of backlash from Gator Nation, who are very unhappy with this. But, those are the two big stories in college sports yesterday. Alabama, Ohio State playing a home and home, and the University of Florida putting an end to the use of the Gator bait cheer and song, having deemed it racially insensitive and not happy with the racist imagery that it is connected to. And so there you have it. And Mark, as you pointed out, the band's not going to play it, but it will be interesting if at some point, and the fans will do it at least the first game.
Well, first off, they'll be doing it in the crowd nonstop. They'll be doing it in the parking lot, if indeed they're allowed to tailgate, which is a whole nother thing to be discussed come September. Right now, we're not tailgating. By September, will we be? I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the University of Michigan right now, I don't think they want, the governor in Michigan doesn't want them to play football. At Michigan State, I know they're not allowed to tailgate, and they've already implemented social distancing guidelines to the spectators of how many games they're going to be allowed to go to and things like that. That's happening everywhere. I just happen to know that in Sparty Land, because one of my 6 jobs, David, my boss is a season ticket holder. So he's like, he read me the letter. That's as much as I got from anybody right now. Bucks haven't given me a letter about what my social distancing is yet.
Well, they're still trying to.
They're holding out.
Yeah, darn right they are.
They're holding out. See those jerseys with Gronk and Brady in them?
They've got the whole season sold out, Mark. Trust me. They're going to hold out as long as possible.
Damn right.
They're going to go week to week, actually. Would not surprise me at all if the Tampa Bay Bucks go week to week as to how many fans they are allowing at their games.
Not just the Bucks, the entire NFL.
Yeah.
The entire NFL. I think they're going to have a September policy, and then towards the end of September, they're going to put their October policy in. I think that makes perfect sense.
Although it will be interesting, and I know we have to take a break here. Kurt Becker on the other side. But let's just say you've got 40,000 season ticket holders, but you're not going to allow 40,000 people at your first game. Are teams going to do all right, here's our thought. You're all going to get to go to half of your games. We're going to allow 20,000. We're going to limit it to season ticket holders. So basically, I don't know, maybe we'll do it alphabetically. Those in the first half of the alphabet, you get to go to games 1, 3, 5, and 7. And those in the second half of the alphabet, you get to go to games 2, 4, 6, and 8.
As long as the Chiefs is in my list, I'm good.
Miller and Moulton. Kurt Becker to talk to Belmont on the other side. Remember, 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. The poll question, that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. So what will happen between now and Monday? Major League Baseball reaches a deal, Manfred implements a deal, or not a damn thing? That's the poll question. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
Kobe Bryant told us this. A ball-centric style is exhausting, and by the time you get to the playoffs, you just don't have much left in the tank. James Harden has lost his legs in the playoffs over and over and over. He goes through droughts and bad nights. We really don't see much in the regular season.
Well, I didn't even put up deal done. Manford. How do we want? Manford tells him the deal, or
yeah, they reach a deal. Manford implements
Attention, Southwest
a plan.
Are you ready for this?
Not a damn thing.
Only Naples Nissan will give you $8,000 over Kelly Blue Book value for your trade-in. Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at NaplesNissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. We'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000.
Boy.
If KBB says 10, we'll give you 18. You must act fast, though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
Cathedral Roofing Innovations. Now, Hurricane Irma was a long time ago, but believe it or not, problems with tile roofs, they continue to occur as a result. Now, many homeowners are just now feeling the effects of the hidden damage.
Nick, like what though? I mean, on this one, but I mean, like,
now, whether it's new leaks,
I know people are all hot and bothered because Aunt Jemima's changed her name. Do you really give a damn? Is that going to affect anybody's life one iota at all?
To lift in powerful storms like hurricanes. When this occurs,
like I know someone's on the Uncle Ben's or Uncle whatever right, but I mean they already changed the Aunt Jemima. That's done. Is anybody going to lose an ounce of sleep over that? Anyone?
Great roofing company to inspect your roof for any damage, and just because you don't have leaks doesn't mean you don't have issues. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. They are the tile experts in Naples, and they will start the inspection process right away. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. Cathedralroofingnaples.com.
License number CCC 1331928. I'm a busy person.
Catch the show anytime. Check out MillerandMoulton.com and subscribe to the daily podcasts.
Great news, Southwest Florida. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. That's right. Below invoice pricing on Chrysler.
David, at some point you're going to have to shoot me over Nikki's number.
Heavy duty Ram trucks. Over 1,500 new and certified pre-owned vehicles in stock. Loaded, luxurious Grand Cherokee Limited lease. 0 down, $269 per month. That's right. Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. 0 down, $269 per month.
Hello, this is Kurt.
Kurt, Mark Miller, and David Moulton in Southwest Florida. How are you this morning?
Good, fellas. How are you?
We are very good. Thanks, as always, for giving us a little time. I think we've got about a minute left before we come on a break.
Very good. Happy to do so.
How you been?
Good. How about yourself?
We're hanging in there.
Hey, are they doing anything to the length of the Preakness?
I have not heard anything on that front as yet. So at this point, as far as I know, it's the traditional distance, but who knows? That could change.
Right. I was kind of looking that up before we went. I'm like, because it's so backwards with that being right. Although I think as a country, we've watched a lot more horse racing this year than we ever have, Kirk.
This is true. Absolutely.
Think about that, so it might be a great time to consider LASIK. Kurt, you in New York?
We are actually going to anchor the broadcast from Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay.
Because of ongoing restrictions.
Right. Okay.
Now, and we'll get into this on the air, but of all of the sports, David, where I think the handicapper wants to be around the track instead of looking at a book, I would think horse racing would be more than golf, more than football, more than. And I know you can get a couple tips on football, but there's a lot you guys learn in the back of the house, don't you, Kirk?
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of horse players are that way. Same with horse buyers. They want to put an eye on the horse and, if at all possible, see it firsthand.
Here we go.
Officially halfway home since it is 7:30 here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Nikki Collin, the head coach of the Atlanta Dream of the WNBA. A lot going on there. She also had her star player decide she's taking the year off for social change. We'll talk to Nikki Collin about it coming up in a half an hour, and we'll revisit the Gator Bait controversy 1 hour from now. But the Belmont is tomorrow, and that means Kurt Becker is kind enough to join us. You can follow him on Twitter at Becker Trackside. He's calling the Triple Crown once again. Kurt, thanks for your time. How you been holding up?
Hey, fellas, good to be back with you, and just glad that we're back to racing once again, and looking forward to getting the Triple Crown kicked off, although it's going to be a different look this year for sure.
Well, let's just start right there because there's a lot in the horse racing world to talk about. But when you get to the Belmont, typically we have one horse that's a big favorite. You know, because we've seen the first two Triple Crown races. Well, this year the schedule's been all up in arms, and we basically have a odds-on favorite that seems to be much better based on the odds than any of the horse. How good is Tiz the Law?
Well, Tiz the Law is definitely the class of the field. He won the Florida Derby earlier this year down at Gulfstream Park. And, of course, he's a winner at Belmont last year at 2. He won the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes. So, you take a horse who's got a win over the track and who's proven at the Grade 1 level, and that's a big deal. And it seems like practically everybody else in this field is still in the stage where they've yet to prove themselves. But with that said, he's not, to me, he's not a real overwhelming kind of horse. And what I mean by that, it seems like so often in Triple Crown races, you want a horse who's got a burst of speed that will almost take your breath away. And I don't think he's that kind of horse. He's the kind of horse that does what he has to do, as the saying goes, and it's gotten him a long way to this point. And but there are some horses that are in this lineup that are starting to show some real potential that I think could give him some fits.
Kurt, your thoughts on them shortening the race by 3/8 of a mile to a mile and an eighth? I mean, I believe the reason they're doing it is that, listen, we don't want to start off the Triple Crown with such a long race that the horses may not be ready for it. But I could also argue that the horses will be fresher for the Belmont than obviously they've ever been before. I mean, is this the year in which you actually could have gotten away with starting with a mile and a half because they haven't been worn down by the Triple Crown?
There are definitely two schools of thought on that. Here's my thought. I know that the New York Racing Association, they talked to a number of industry stakeholders. They talked to owners. They talked to trainers about that situation. And I think that based on the feedback that they got, particularly from trainers, had a lot to do with their decision to go ahead and shorten the distance up from a mile and a half to a mile and an eighth. It's the first time, in case any of your listeners are wondering, it's the first time since 1894 that the race will be contested at this distance. I think they did the right thing. It's such an unusual circumstance. It's such an oddball year in terms of all the restrictions and how the pandemic has altered racing schedules and training schedules. I think that you have to deal with the circumstance you've got. And I think in that regard, the New York Racing Association, they did their homework and I think made the right move here.
Kirk, on that note, we've been racing out Churchill for a while. Belmont opened up. A lot of tracks never even really shut down. Between TVG, FS1, and NBC Sports, we've watched more horse racing here in the last couple of months than I think probably most of us have in a long time. The one thing I've not heard, UFC's had a couple of, early on had a trainer. I think there was a fight last night on ESPN that the title bout got canceled because the trainer had COVID. By and large, at the tracks, have there been any outbreaks of COVID? Have there been things that have made the industry scared? Because if they have, I've not seen a lot of it out there, Kurt.
Not to my knowledge. About the only situation that comes to my mind, and this was early on in the lockdowns that started around the country, there was a point where jockey Javier Castellano had tested positive for COVID-19. I don't recall that he particularly showed symptoms, but he did test positive. He's fine. In fact, he's scheduled to ride in the Belmont on Saturday, and his situation was diagnosed back in late March, if I remember correctly. But I think that this is one area where horse racing has benefited. With regard to horse racing and motorsports, you've got two of the sports known to mankind in this day and age, where the athletes do not make physical contact with each other. At least that's not the point of the competition. So in that regard, I think it's worked out for horse racing in particular to go ahead and maintain a presence and to stay active, and it's certainly been beneficial for the sport.
Kurt, I'm not trying to somehow present myself as an expert, but from the research that I've done on this field, you have an awful lot of horses that either A, have not raced at the grade 1 stakes level, or B, have not raced anywhere near a mile and an eighth before. It just seems as if there are very few horses in this field that have done both, that have raced at the highest level and have raced any kind of distance. Is that unusual?
It is unusual, and I think, again, it's a product of what has gone on ever since mid-March over the course of the last 3 months with regard to interrupting typical training schedules for races of this nature, Triple Crown races. Even with the Belmont being shortened up like it has, you're right. The mile and an eighth distance is still going to be something that a number of these horses haven't faced, or they haven't been in a race classified as a grade 1. I think that as grade 1s go, this one's a different situation, and here's why. So much happens in a normal year, Kentucky Derby, first Saturday in May. There is so much that takes place from mid-March up to that first Saturday in May in terms of mile and an eighth, grade 1 prep races, the Wood Memorial in New York, the Toyota Bluegrass in Lexington, Kentucky, the Santa Anita Derby, which is normally run the first weekend of April. And the COVID-19 pandemic has thrown everything up in the air and has really presented a lot of challenges, because a lot of trainers have said for the longest time, even though, yes, there were tracks still running around the country, from a week-to-week basis, we had no idea what was going to happen. When was New York going to open back up? What was the sequence for the Triple Crown going to be? Keep in mind, the New York Racing Association, they didn't make an announcement on the Belmont until May 19th. The Maryland Jockey Club didn't make an announcement on the status of the Preakness till around May 17th. So I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing the situation where we tend to look at the Belmont from historical perspective and say, wow, this doesn't seem like a typical Belmont field, but that's because really it's just not been a typical year.
Okay, we started this with 'Tis the Law being the class of the race. Based on what David said, are there two horses that you would just throw out? I mean, we always have upsets, but based on the fact that we don't have a lot of grade 1, the pandemic, all of the things you just mentioned, Kirk, are there a couple of horses that when you look at this field of 10 go, yeah, don't waste your money on...
I think for that reason, guys, my answer is no. And here's why. Because when you get beyond 'Tis the Law, practically all other 9 that have passed the entry box are largely untested, unproven commodities, and therefore, especially in a game like horse racing, one never knows how that will affect things. I'll give you a good example with 'Tis the Law. Boy, here's a horse who's bred for a distance. Well, in the traditional sense, we're not going a big distance of ground on Saturday. 'Tis the Law is awfully good around 2 turns. Well, this is not going to be a 2-turn race this year. It's a 1-turn mile and an eighth. So then you take a horse like Tap It to Win, who drew the number 1 post position for trainer Mark Casse. You can look at Tap It to Win and say, well, come on. He always seems to fall on his face in a stakes race. His only grade 1 as a 2-year-old, he ran up the racetrack and finished 10th. But if you go back and look at his videos from his recent races, he's not the same horse he was at 2. He's matured physically. He's matured mentally, which is evident by the way he's learned to relax and settle down and settle into a good position in a race. And he just flat ran them off their feet at Belmont on June 4th. So So Tap It to Win is a great example of a horse that, yeah, you can look on paper and say he's not won a race that matters, quote unquote, in terms of a stakes race or a graded stakes race, but he's one of those horses, Hall of Fame trainer, Hall of Fame jockey, and is starting to round into form. And that's the other thing, guys, 10 entries in the race, 6 of the 10 are trained by Hall of Fame trainers. So it makes it difficult for me to really toss anybody.
Also interesting from a betting standpoint, Kurt, is that you've got 5 horses that are less than 10 to 1, and then you've got 5 horses that are 15 to 50 to 1. So there seems to be a real line in the sand as to, it's Tis the Law, but then it's Sol Volante, it's Dr. Post, it's Tap It to Win, and it's Pneumatic. All right. And those seem to be, and you mentioned Tap It to Win. I'm curious about Dr. Post because, you got Pletcher, the trainer, and he's got 2 horses in this race, but this is his best horse. Dr. Post at 5 to 1. Your thoughts?
That's a classic example where you've got a horse that seems to be on the improve, as so many of them do, because we are still early in the year, even though we're almost in July. It's early in the year in terms of these 3-year-olds being a largely unknown quantity in any level of stakes racing. But with Dr. Post, one of the things I like, beyond the fact that he has shown some promise, beyond the fact he's by a popular sire quality road, is the fact that Todd's got Irad Ortiz Jr. scheduled to ride. And this is a guy that he's 27 years old. Of course, he's been one of the dominant riders in New York in the last few years. He won the Belmont a few years ago on Creator. He's won the last 2 Eclipse Awards as the nation's top jockey. So when you've got Irad Ortiz in the irons and you're at Belmont Park, where he's been absolutely masterful, ever since he moved his tack to New York from his native Puerto Rico, I think that that's a big plus for Dr. Post.
And for you hockey fans out there, Dr. Post owned by the owner of the Florida Panthers. Just little FYI there. That's part of the group that owns that particular horse. So
that is true. And incidentally, if people are curious, Dr. Post is named after the family cardiologist for Vinny Viola and his family. So that's the background on the name.
Has nothing to do with post crossbar for all of you hockey fans out there. Nothing whatsoever. Kirk, my final question is, one of the things that they've always talked about at the Belmont is the turn for home and the roar. And how do horses handle all of those people, whether it's at Churchill Downs, but whether the New York crowd at Belmont, we all know they make some noise. With no noise, does that favor any horse over another?
Well, there's a point that I think is being overlooked by a lot of folks, even a lot of folks within the industry. I think have overlooked this aspect, and you bring up a point that is worthy of consideration, and here's why. The reason that's the case is, okay, you might have you've got typically 150,000 people at Churchill Downs, and people might look at a crowd at Belmont and say, well, the crowd doesn't get quite to that level. But I've been at Belmont where even with a crowd of 30 to 40,000, because of that grandstand and the way that roof extends over the apron and the way it retains sound, it does create an incredible atmosphere. The other thing is, guys, during the pre-race, when you're back in the paddock area, I would suggest that in many ways the Belmont is often the loudest of the 3 Triple Crown races. It's like a county fair atmosphere in the area where the paddock is located behind the grandstand on a typical Belmont day. You've got roving bands, Dixieland bands, and mariachi bands, and they're performing and playing, and there are all kinds of concession stands. People are yelling to one another and talking back and forth, and it's an incredible atmosphere. It's fun, it's exciting, but it's also very loud. So you're taking all that away this year. As far as a horse that this atmosphere could benefit, I think that plays into the hands actually of your favorite Tis the Law. if you talk to the folks who have known this horse since he was a baby, the folks who sold him as a yearling at Saratoga, they will tell you he's always been this calm, cool, level-headed type. He was so good even when he was a yearling at the sale. Any member of the team, the bloodstock agents team that sold this horse, they could use any one of their show handlers to get him out of the stall. Sometimes horses, especially young horses, are so nervous and so fractious, you've got to be careful who you assign to the horse to show him to a prospective buyer. They said, not this guy. He did anything we wanted. They said he made us look good at the sale. So I think that he's a horse that nothing rattles him. So you're going to throw in a calm atmosphere to boot. I just think everything lines up in that regard for him. Although, having said that, I think he's a vulnerable favorite because he hasn't raced in 3 months.
All right, very quickly then. Tiz the Law going to win?
I'm going to bet against him. And my thought is, you mentioned Sol Volante a moment ago. I'm going to go the opposite direction here. The favorite hasn't raced in 3 months. Sol Volante is a horse who just raced 10 days ago. Patrick Biancone is a trainer who's known to be unorthodox at times in his approach to these types of things. And when he targets a race, people have looked at his training schedule before and scratched their head and said, this doesn't make any sense. And then he pops up and he wins the race, and everybody says, okay, I guess he did know what he was doing. So I think Sol Volante, he's hot, he's ready to go, he's tight, he's physically fit. He's just had a race less than 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to go with Sol Volante to upset Tiz the Law.
Kurt Becker going to call the Triple Crown races once again. Follow him on Twitter at Becker Trackside. Kurt, thanks so much for your time and your insight, and we'll talk again soon.
Fellas, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Kurt Becker, kind enough to join us here once again on Miller and Moulton. 9-2 are the odds on Sol Volante, 6-5 on Tiz the Law.
And 5-1 on Dr. Post. Today was the day when is next right here. Thanks for listening. Miller and Moulton.
Drive home with the Doug Gottlieb Show.
We may bore some of you with the horse racing talk, but God, I love having Kurt Becker on.
Well, but, you know.
Oh, wait till you see the numbers. We'll blow the effing roof off of this thing. We'll be a top 4 market in the country for this race.
Right.
Be New York, or I'm sorry, to be Louisville, New York, and then probably Fort Myers, Naples.
Yep.
And we might top New York. You never know. If the Yankees were playing, we would for sure. If they're showing a Yankees highlight somewhere, we still might.
Last week I was a dishwasher, but now I is a super duper plumber. I mean, electrician. No, not
Nikki will be at the airport when we call her. She's got like an 8:55 flight.
All right, so we got plenty of time because she won't board until 20-ish.
Right. So, but she'll be through security and all that.
So I will try next week to get Bednar one afternoon.
They make huge commissions and they really have no clue as to what they're doing.
Okay.
I mean,
remember, we only have 3 shows next week.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe the week after then.
My advice would be hire an expert for what you need.
Yeah.
Because we'll have Pat Tuesday.
Right. We'll have to reschedule Seth.
Put Seth on Friday.
Yeah.
Attention, Southwest Florida. Are you ready for this?
Which is good then because John's virtually done before the week starts.
Right.
Give you $8,000 over Kelly Blue Book value for your trade-in.
I think I talked to every one of your FGCU buddies yesterday. Yeah, we're taking off Wednesday and Thursday. I'm going to Marathon to fish. And we don't do solo shows during the pandemic.
Current market value for your trade-in. We'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home.
Come on, I came back early from cancer surgery.
No, I know. No, I'm not. Someone just asked 3 shows ? And I just said I'm going away for a couple days. He just asked the question. Nothing. So yeah, we're not doing solo. There's just no sense. And then we're taking July 3rd off because it's a company holiday, and we're all for company holidays.
Right. So you called all the FGCU people yesterday?
No. I text Ken about that temp tab thing, and he said it's Estes. So then I was chatting with Estes on Twitter, and Then I got thinking, and so I reached out to Mike Hill to see who I should send it to there, and then reached out to Pearson. Everybody says hello.
Innovations. Now, Hurricane Irma was a long time ago, but believe it or not, problems with tile roofs, they continue to occur as a result. Now, many homeowners are just now feeling the effects of the hidden damage that occurred to their tile roof. Now, whether it's new leaks, cracked, unsecured tiles,
Morning, Zed.
Are living on borrowed time. Now, tile roofs by nature,
We have holiday parties now. We've had one.
like hurricanes. When this occurs, your tile
Last year we went out to dinner. I forced David and John to go out to dinner, and they actually had fun.
Now, with Cathedral Roofing Innovations, you get
We did Japanese tabletop for our, because nothing says Christmas dinner like a Japanese steakhouse.
you don't have issues. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. They are the tile experts.
I still have to reimburse myself for that.
The inspection process right away. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. Cathedralroofingnaples.com.
License number CCC 1331928.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing in Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. DRM Roofing, or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
Yes, there was.
This is Miller and Moulton. You're live.
Nikki Collin will join us in 10 minutes. She's the head coach of the Atlanta Dream with the WNBA. But think about it. Everything that the NBA is going through, the WNBA is going through. And Nikki, in fact, is in the Sarasota Bradenton area having to scout where it is that she's going to be living for the next 3 months and practicing and playing and working and all that. So Nikki's kind enough to join us coming up in about 10 minutes time.
Between now and then, it's time for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Start today in 1910, when in Spokane, Washington, we celebrated Father's Day for the first time. Way to go, Spokane. Who knew Gonzaga was responsible for Father's Day, David?
I don't know if they are, but they're taking credit for it.
Well, what happened that year is they were upset they didn't get a bid. 1936, Max Schmeling KOs up-and-coming American heavyweight Joe Louis in 12 rounds in Yankee Stadium. 1943, a big NFL merger. Just think about it for a moment, because today in 1943, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers merged. It dissolved by December 5th.
Wow.
If that doesn't sum up the relationship between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, I'm not sure what does, David. They were able to stay in a marriage for a whopping 5 months.
Wow, it's a Britney Spears marriage there.
Two things happened today in 1954. One at Baltusrol. Ed Fergal wins his only major title, beating Gene Littler. But I think it pales in comparison by the debut of the Tasmanian Devil. I think he's an underrated cartoon character. Loved the Tasmanian Devil. 1955, Jack Fleck wins an 18-hole playoff by 3 to win his only major and deny Ben Hogan a record 5th title. 1960, Loretta Lynn records I'm a Honky Tonk Girl. 1970, Jim Bolton's Ball 4. Boughton, rather. Ball 4 is published.
An amazing book, and even more amazing when you realize the time in which it was written. All right, 50 years ago, I mean, he got blackballed. They viewed him worse than what Donald Trump views John Bolton today. I mean, that's what he did was considered sacrilegious.
Yeah, I threw an L in his name there because I've just been seeing that pop up. The Bolton name's kind of been on the news here a little bit lately. I don't know if you're aware. 1977 at Southern Hills, Hubie Green shoots a 2-under, 278 to beat Lou Graham by a shot. 1978, another cartoon character was born. Garfield debuted. Did you like Garfield? I mean, I know you read the comics. No? Never found it funny. Well, you don't like animals.
Believe it or not, I was not a comics guy.
Huh. And you and I think, when I read that about Garfield, I think we kind of went through the golden era of the comic. The comic strip in the paper, not comic books. But of things being pretty popular. Pablo Escobar surrendered to police today in 1991. Oh, I missed one there. Sorry. Barry Switzer resigned as Oklahoma coach today in 89. I jumped ahead of myself. Evander Holyfield beat Larry Holmes today in 92 for the title. 1999 at the Marine Midland Arena. A game that still isn't over with as far as I'm concerned. 2-1 in triple overtime. The Dallas Stars would win the Stanley Cup, and Brett Hull was in the crease.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Sorry, Buffalo fan, because of all the things I tease Buffalo about, I'm on your side with that one. I'm still pissed off about that goal.
Boy, Norwood wide right or Brett Hull in the crease.
Well, first off, it only gets them to a Game 7 if they win, so it's Norwood clearly. Remember, this is like Buckner. There's still another game.
Right.
2000, the Lakers beat the Pacers 4-2 for the title. Michael Campbell beats Tiger in 2005, holding him off to win by 2 at Pinehurst. The Carolina Hurricanes in 7 beat Edmonton for the Stanley Cup in 06. Rory McIlroy wins the Open in 11. And DJ wins by 3 in 2016. Also, the Cavs that same day would win in 7 for the title. If you're born today, you share your birthday with Lou Gehrig, Al Wilson, Shirley Muldowney, Felicia Richard, Paula Abdul, Boris Johnson, and Dirk Nowitzki, born today in 1978.
Wow.
That is today was the day when.
Big birthday day.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah. I was a big Shirley Muldowney fan.
Just because of the movie?
Well, we had the drag racing in Jersey. That's why. Nikki Collin next.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floormeisters in Naples, on the phone.
Happy birthday, Zed, sister.
Great pricing on Cortec flooring. Tim?
If you'd have done that 5 minutes ago, I would have thrown that in.
Right.
I've thrown David's mother in. I've thrown my mother in. Threw my wife in. Oh, I got her birthday's a week from today. Really, the only bad part about your wife's birthday being just a few days after Father's Day, it takes all the luster out of my day. My day's over with, and we're on to birthday week.
Yeah, you have to root for an early Father's Day then.
I like those 15ths.
Right.
Yeah.
15, 16, get some separation.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples.
Yeah, we made dinner plans for Saturday with our friends and their kids, and you know what it's going to end up being. It's going to end up being like a pre-birthday party for my wife. Not the 2 guys whose Father's Day is the next day. With 4 kids in the house. Not a damn thing.
Arch keeps talking about food. Now I want lasagna. Yeah,
why do you want lasagna?
Every single day there's a news story.
We got a story. We've been working on that all morning.
Arch, are you in Naples or Fort Myers?
We do this all for you.
Which is how the business works.
We are Fox Sports Radio, and we're working hard for you.
At Wink News, we've invested millions in the technology that shows you approaching storms. First, fast, and local.
And during hurricane season, we know the weather is what you're watching for.
We've got tools no other station has to show you what you need to know to keep your family safe.
At Wink Weather, our mission comes down to one thing.
I was going to tell you because I've got a great lasagna spot, but it's Naples, and I would never drive 30 minutes for lasagna. I'd drive 45 minutes to an hour for a good hot dog, but I don't know if I'd drive 30 minutes for a good lasagna.
I don't know that you have to drive 30 minutes.
That's where I'm kind of with you. I think I'm not a lasagna guy.
I am, but I think you could find good lasagna every 10 minutes.
Good morning.
Morning, Nikki. How are you this morning?
I'm good.
How's the Sarasota Bradenton Airport other than really, really small?
Yeah, which is not really that big an issue. It's very easy to social distance here.
Well played. Well played. Nikki, thanks for agreeing to do this.
Oh, absolutely. No worries.
Were you down there just for the day?
Yeah, I was down there. I got in about 10-ish yesterday, and we toured most of the day. And then amazingly, we had like an afternoon all-league medical meeting with the doctors from the league at 4, and then I had a live radio interview like streamed at 7, and then I had a huge Zoom deal with Lloyd Pierce from the Hawks and Dan Quinn from the Falcons, talking about race and sports, and so at 8. So I mean, yesterday was crazy.
All right, here we go in about 15 seconds, Nikki. Thanks again.
Yeah.
So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Third and final hour of Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Graham Hall, who covers the Gators for the Gainesville Sun, will join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're thrilled to welcome back Nikki Collin onto the show, head coach of the Atlanta Dream of the WNBA. You can follow Nikki on Twitter at Nikki Collin. Nikki, thanks for your time. How are you and Tom and the kids doing during all this?
Oh, I think we're doing as well as can be expected. With Georgia being the first state to really reopen around the 1st of May, things have really, other than the fact that the reason you still know that there's corona going around in Atlanta is the traffic has not picked up yet. You can actually move freely about the city. But as far as our lives, my kids are back to lacrosse and cheer and, almost feel like we're through it, which I absolutely know we aren't. But definitely a different feel than 6 weeks ago.
Sorry to the rest of our audience here, but I have to ask this question. Nikki, how is driving in Atlanta like without traffic? I lived there for a year and a half, and unless I was coming home from a game at 3 in the morning that I had got done working, there was no such thing as that in that city, and this is 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, honestly, I still put Waze on no matter when I go, and I'm like, really? It's really only 40 minutes into the city from home? Even yesterday, based on when I would have needed to be at the airport, it might have taken me 90 minutes to an hour to go 39 miles, and to be able to be in the parking lot in 40 minutes. It's just, I thought as people kind of started back to work, I'd see an uptick. And I think there are some pockets during the day where it's a lot of people who aren't used to traffic would call it traffic, but it has not returned. It's like I'm still waiting. It's gonna come back, because it's just you have to learn that you don't go anywhere without Waze.
Nikki, the reason you're in Sarasota, Bradenton, is the WNBA season is going to take place at the IMG Academy in Bradenton. Is this going to work? I mean, from what you've been able to see and hear, we've heard a lot about the NBA in Orlando. Well, you guys are going through the exact same thing, just in Bradenton. Is this going to work?
I think that the hardest part about this situation has been how fluid the information is in regards to what we know about COVID, what we know about what protocol should be. I think, I don't think it matters whether it's the NBA or the WNBA, when the most important thing is player health and safety. And, with constant fluctuation, and I mean, let's talk about the World Health Organization a week ago, coming out and saying that asymptomatic people don't really pass it. And then 3 hours later, the retraction. I think our league has been very careful to not make any decisions until they felt confident that we could resume and make this thing happen. being here at IMG, I think that, there's going to be a lot of sacrifices. Life isn't going to be different. I've tried to tell my team, like, to view this as, in some ways, and I know you can't do this if you've had somebody close to you that's passed away of COVID or this has touched you in a personal way. But as far as safety goes, we're going to be tested daily. I think we're going to be maybe the safest place you could be in the world, relative to like what protocols are going to be. So, my hope is that they view it as a long summer camp, that they can say, you know what, 20 years from now, we're going to look back, we're going to tell our kids, our grandkids, like, remember that summer without sports? And then we were in this bubble. And, I think it could make for like an incredible documentary at the end of the day.
But one of the players that would be a part of the documentary, but not on the court with you, is Renee Montgomery, who said that she is not going to play to continue working in social justice. I read her article in the Players Tribune. It was very moving. I'm curious, first off, of the conversations that the two of you had as she was talking about making this decision and ended up making this decision.
Yeah, the conversations were quite frankly long, but quick. And I'll explain that better. I mean, I think it's my job, especially as a professional coach, to kind of stay out of any labor negotiations, whether it's the CBA that they negotiated in the off season. Elizabeth Williams on my team is on the executive board or the executive committee. So, I think it was their time, June, as they were going through these negotiations with the league and the board of governors. I just felt like, my job was to sit back, and if players reached out to me, I had conversations. If not, I didn't want my bias to jump in there in regards to what I think. And so, with Renee, quite frankly, over the last 2 weeks, I've heard a ton from other people about, kind of what she was saying in some of the players only meetings and on league calls and things like that. So I don't think it came as any surprise to the players in the league, to the higher ups in the league. But for me, I waited until Monday when the announcement was made. And I knew we were going to have a season to just reach out and say, hey, let's have a conversation. And when I talked to her on Monday, my first question is like, where's your head? Where's your heart? What are you thinking? I've heard a lot, but I want you to just talk to me. And we talked for 3 hours and 26 minutes. It was one of those, like, it was midnight. I looked down at my phone. Oh my goodness. I've been on this call for 3 hours and 26 minutes. And I really just let her talk about what her concerns are and where she's at. And, she called me 24 hours later, called me Tuesday night and said she had made the decision that she was going to opt out. And, we began kind of the process of how we were going to frame it, how we were going to support it, what we could do, and so, it, once again, like if we had 3.5 hours over a 3-week period, that still would have been a lot of conversation. So it happened in my mind really fast, but I'd heard a lot of rumblings, that, she had major concerns in a lot of areas.
Do you think that, because Maya Moore made a similar decision and she made it weeks ago, do you think that this is something that teammates are supportive of? Because, Nikki, we've brought up that it's possible in all of the major sports leagues that a player, male or female, may just raise their hand because of the coronavirus and go, I got to be honest, I'm not comfortable playing this year. So, we got a couple of things going on. We got a pandemic and we've got social change and justice on the table as well. Do you think that people are supportive of a player if they choose either one not to play this year?
I do. And I think we have to. I think from, our business office and leadership at the franchise level, at the league level, I said in the press release with Renee, but I really mean it. If we're gonna sell shirts as a league, to support the social injustice that say bigger than ball, then we can't just say it. We have to be about it. We have to embody it. We have to support it. And it doesn't make it easy. Like, this is a situation where I'm losing my starting point guard, and it may not be the only player I lose. And so it's absolutely going to have significant impact on my ability to coach. But, I honestly can say this, that, I want to take 12 people into the bubble that want to be there, that see it as an opportunity, that aren't fearful of it. And I think everyone's going to have some trepidation. What is it going to look like? How's it going to feel? What's my day going to look like? I don't think it's going to be easy for anyone. I think mental health is a huge thing right now. I think we have players that are hurting. Obviously as a white person today, like I have to continue to educate myself and have sensitivity to what those feelings are, that I may never truly understand, but can empathize with. And so there are people that are going to say they're not comfortable with the coronavirus. I think the thing that I would say to that is I'm not sure they could go to a safer place. If you're home, if you're going about your daily life, which most people are to some degree, even if they're doing it carefully, I think if you're going there and you're getting tested every day and you're going to have the best medical care, then if you do test positive and there's protocols in place, then I think players should feel safe. But that's a factual situation, but that doesn't take into account the emotional side, which we can't discount.
And obviously the emotional side has a lot to do with the choices that Renee made. I'm curious in that long conversation, because I had, and again, as a 50-year-old white guy, I don't have a lot of say in this, but when Kyrie Irving was talking about not playing, I just wondered aloud, when you don't play, how much of your platform are you then losing? Was that any part of the discussion that the two of you had? Because it seems that when you play, your platform is larger than when you don't play.
It is, and it's obviously already smaller on the women's professional side, period. Unfortunately, if you were to even hit an article, as it scrolled on ESPN, and it wasn't just on the women's blog sites, right? Like, this became a national story yesterday. But what's still sad to me about it is, there's a story on ESPN or the Players Trib or all these things, and you have all these people commenting like nobody cares, and what is the WNBA, and kind of that whole, why are you trolling? Like, why are you commenting if you don't care? Which has always been a weird phenomenon to me. But I think you probably do lose a little bit of your platform. And, Renee's a really good player in this league, but she hasn't been, an all-league type of player. She didn't walk away like Maya Moore did in the prime of her career. Renee's sitting there as someone who I firmly believe is going to be successful whatever she does. And, whether she decides that this is the end of her basketball career. I mean, she's 32 going on 33. She's amazing at broadcasting, and she's used this quarantine time to continue to kind of build her brand with Instagram Live and all kinds of hostess type opportunities. And so, I just know for Renee, this is really important to her right now. And the thing that I'm incredibly confident about with her is that if this is the end of basketball for her, she's going to be incredibly successful. So, does that mean that, Renee Montgomery opting out and making this decision a month from now, will anyone remember? I'm not sure, but if this is what is in her heart right now, and she's comfortable walking away from the WNBA paycheck, which some people think is nothing, but in a world right now where there's 44 million Americans without jobs, her paycheck was pretty good. So, I think she didn't do it lightly, and, is prepared to deal with whatever comes with this platform.
Nikki Collin, head coach of the Atlanta Dream, former WNBA Coach of the Year, about to begin her third year, a year unlike any other that she has experienced as a player or a coach. You keep talking about the bubble. Are you going to be away from your family the whole time? I mean, are you players, coaches? Is it basically it's just you? Is there going to be any visiting, or no? When you leave home and you come to Bradenton next time, that's it. See you in October.
Yeah, there are. It's basically that I will not have my family there. We are allowed to have, a plus one as a head coach in this league. We're allowed to have a plus one, or you're allowed to bring your family. But they have to come in on day one, and once they leave, they can't come back. Anyone that knows the Collin family knows that. We'll be going 1,000 miles per hour. So
Right.
between, my son has 3 lacrosse tournaments in July. My daughter has 2 and then 1 in August. And, Reese, my oldest daughter, has cheer 3 to 5 days a week. So, they don't want any part of the bubble. They, I think, are going to miss their mom and, miss being at games. And, if there was more opportunity to come and go, they certainly would. But I think, if we're going to call it a safe site and treat it like a safe site, I think the league is, trying to be as strict as they can. Players with 5 years of experience get a plus one. Moms in this league can bring their kids, but they're kind of under those same restrictions where they have to come in on day one, and if they leave, they can't come back until they're going to have a second window before the semifinals. So, people don't know, like our first and second rounds are one game, play out, play in, whatever, to the semifinals. So once we get to the semifinals, it's a 5-game series, and so they are going to open it back up for plus ones to come in at that point. So, yeah, those are your 2 options: at the beginning and at the end.
Final question, Nikki. Are you excited about this season? Are the players excited, or is everybody kind of tiptoeing into the season?
I think it's a really mixed bag. For me, it probably helped being here, yesterday, and kind of walking the campus and feeling like, as someone who's maybe a little OCD in my planning and, wants things lined up a certain way, like this is going to be good for me, to have to roll with the punches to some degree and make it work. I'm going to be coaching a professional team with some of the best athletes in the world, and right across the curtain from me is going to be another team, running their practice and training camp. So, that's not ideal. It's not going to be perfect, but I actually think that there's something that could be really, really cool about this season that's unlike any other. That really I'll be able to tell my grandkids 20 years from now, like what it was like. And I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but I'm excited about that challenge. I certainly worry to some degree about what my roster is going to look like in 2 weeks. Because I don't think this is over in terms of players making decisions that are best for them right now. And that's the tough part, for me, like when I think about, and I'm not suggesting that other coaches didn't work hard, but, we just really revamped our roster this off season. And, I didn't really sleep for 3 weeks in free agency. And I was on the phone oftentimes with agents starting at 8 a.m. and sometimes on the phone with players or agents, way into 11, 12 o'clock at night. And so because of that, I just had this excitement when the dust settled of look what we've done. We've changed the roster, look at the possibilities. And so, I think that's the toughest part is, wanting to have had it be normal where, I could have brought those players to camp and figured out which 12 make the most sense. And then, this is just, throwing us all off in terms of preparation and what it's going to look and feel like. But I am, and I also know that, I can't pretend that basketball is the most important thing in the world right now. So I have to temper that excitement, but I'm a basketball coach. This is a game I love. It's a game I love to coach. It's my comfort zone. It's my okay, there's craziness going on in the world. Here's a place where it's not crazy ever for me. It's calming. So I am excited. I think we'll show up and we'll all be a little nervous. But I do think we have a lot of players that they want to play. They don't know what it's going to look like to play in front of no fans. I think one of the strangest things about protocols right now in sports as they return, and you see this in soccer and, is that, players are going to go out on the court and set screens and sweat on each other and push and defend and, and then they're going to go to the bench and they're going to be seated 6 feet apart on the bench. I just like, there's like I'm just like, even, when we walk around IMG and like all the protocols, we'll only have X number of tables and we'll have them spaced. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we're being tested every day. And these people are going to be sweating all over each other. And then we're all going to turn around and wear masks and sit 6 feet apart, like when we're not on the basketball court. Like, there's a part of it that just makes me shake my head and go, this is where it just goes to show you we still have a lot to learn about this, this virus, because I just, you look at that. And in soccer, I look at, them sitting above and them all spaced out, and it looks really silly. And I think to myself, well, at least with soccer rules, like, most of those guys won't get in the game. Like, they literally could sit there. They're there to watch the game like a fan, because of their substitution rules. Like, I'm going to have players coming and going, So it's like they're going to be sitting 6 feet apart and then start high-fiving each other, to go into the game, So, I think you could look at that even from, like, look at West Point's graduation where they're all spaced out. And then the minute they got to throw their caps, then all of a sudden they're throwing their caps, hugging each other like, oh, well, that was really good that they were 6 feet apart for the whole ceremony, it's hard for people to not connect.
Nikki, thanks for agreeing to do this. Safe travels. All the best to you with your team, and all the best, Tom, with your 3 kids.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nikki.
Nikki Collin, head coach of the Atlanta Dream. Follow her on Twitter at Nikki Collin, Collen. Nikki was an assistant for a couple years with FGCU before being an assistant in the WNBA and getting the Atlanta Dream job a little more than 2 years ago. In her first year, she took them to within a game of the finals and won WNBA Coach of the Year. Nikki Collin, kind enough to join us with Mark, some of the best insight that we've gotten, concerning protocols and teams and basically whatever they're doing in Bradenton, that's what they're going to be doing in Orlando.
More than likely. That's a start. And it was interesting for Nikki to have to temper her excitement for basketball, understanding everything that's going on. And at the end, I'm a basketball coach. It was kind of the one thing that resonated with terrific answers. And like you said, a lot of insight, not just on that, but on her player, Renee Montgomery, who's sitting out the year. A lot of great insight. But at the end of the day, I'm a basketball coach. I want to coach basketball.
And she kind of hinted she thinks Renee might not be the only player on her team, never mind on other teams, that are going to decide here in the next week or so that, you know what, I'm not going to play this year. That life and the world's a little more important than this, and I'm going to work on that. Nikki Collin, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. Graham Hall covers the Gators for the Gainesville Sun. We will talk to him about the whole Gator bait controversy, decision, scenario. Talk to Graham Hall next on Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Calling your quarantine. And we move now to the couch where this match is set to take place. The first spoonful of ice cream shoveled in, maybe a little too fast. We could have a brain freeze situation here.
Cannot fill the void of baseball.
And after making quick work of the dishes, she turns to, oh, wait.
We'll get back to the ballpark.
The cat was settled by her feet.
Eventually.
Look out below. She's going down.
A message of hope from Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Well, we're all trying to wash our hands 10, maybe 50, 100 times a day now. So when you touch your contact lenses in the morning, are you also thinking about, well, all the germs you could potentially be placing in your eyes? No one wants to think about that, so it might be a great time to consider LASIK. France Eye Care offering $1,000 off bilateral LASIK, a savings that makes the procedure much more affordable. Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you see your future in 2020 by providing you with better vision and a better quality of life. But what if you've been told you're not a candidate for LASIK? Call France Eye Care anyway, because there are other procedures available that will help you see clearly without the use of glasses or contact lenses. Call now, schedule your free consultation, take advantage of $1,000 off bilateral LASIK special. Financing available.
France Eye Care. For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau. You can count on us for great service. You can count on us to get it done. You can count on us for a price that's fair. The quality is second to none. For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau. You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
Trade in and trade up. Over $500,000 in trade-in assistance up for grabs at Galliana Kia in Fort Myers. 2020 Kia Forte LXS lease, 0 down, $159 per month. 2020 Kia Sorento LX lease, 0 down, $259 per month. Plus, at Galliana Kia in Fort Myers, you can drive interest-free up to 72 months and worry-free for 100,000 miles. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you've got $500 down and you make at least $500 per week, our lenders can get you approved. At Galliana Kia, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com.
How far out are we, Jero?
36 month leases, 10,000 miles per year, 0 to exotic tax title.
About a minute and a half.
Okay.
1033 Kate Coral.
Webb Simpson tied for the lead
Tip of the day. I'd like to tell you that I'm the best AC mechanic
with Mackenzie Hughes.
I think my NATE certified mechanic
And then Poulter and Hubbard, but they're on the course already.
You see, I'm the old guy, and I've been doing this work since I was a kid with my dad. Our younger staff are really the best mechanics in this business, and they've been through years of training and years of testing with continuing education to keep up to date on the latest and greatest things in the air conditioning world. All companies brag about their experience, and we certainly have.
Hey, how's it going?
Good morning, Graham. Mark Miller and David Moulton, Southwest Florida. How are you?
Mark, how's it going? I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on. Always my pleasure.
We'll really appreciate it. David always goes first. I will go second. We're going on in about 20 seconds. So, again, thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks, y'all. Hope y'all are doing well.
We are. We are. Good thing about the home studio is I can pick exactly when we call, so I don't have to keep you on hold forever.
I love it. I love it. Sounds good.
This message is sponsored by the Florida A&M University Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative. The Florida
Things are a little crazy. Your phone going off a little bit yesterday?
It was good. It was. I had to make a lot of calls. Called the guy who ran the magazine for a long time. I actually hadn't talked to him in a while, and asking people for comment on this is always kind of you don't want to push people to comment on something as serious as this, but at the same time, a lot of people realize that silence is deafening in a sense. So. Yeah, it was getting back to work in a sense. It was fun. Let me say that.
Here we go. Thanks again.
Yep.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
"28 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. The home stretch of Miller and Moulton, not just for this Friday the 19th, Juneteenth, but also for the week. We thank you for being with us here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Reminder, NASCAR all weekend long, Saturday and Sunday, live coverage from Talladega, brought to you by Kobe Cooling and Compass Drug Screening. Graham Hall is kind enough to join us. He covers the Gators for the Gainesville Sun. He had a very slow day yesterday. You can follow Graham on Twitter at GrahamHall _. Graham, thanks so much for your time. And, well, first off, how are you and friends and family faring in Gainesville during all these days?
Hey, David, Mark, thanks for having me on. I'm doing well. I do miss sports and college football as everyone else. I get to do everything kind of around here in Gainesville that is a lot of fun and exciting stuff going on all the time. But we saw the baseball season cut short. The basketball season, I was preparing to go to Nashville. I'm just hoping that we have football here in the fall. The way that some of these precautions have played out so far makes me pretty optimistic if everyone follows the rules. But what we were talking about yesterday really didn't have so much to do with football itself, but I really think it'll pay dividends with recruiting for the schools out there that are taking actions that showing that they're ready to embody those values. And that was something that we got to work on and talk to a lot of people that was related to football and sports, but really was in its own separate lane entirely. So it was good to get back at it a little bit. But yesterday, very busy day, absolutely.
Well, obviously, the big story from Florida is the Gator bait cheer that is no longer going to be used. The president of the university, citing racist imagery associated with the phrase, is what's behind the decision. What we have wondered today, and curious what you found out yesterday on this, Graham, is who did they talk to? Who was complaining? Were there complaints about this? Because obviously, this is one of those things. My phone blew up yesterday. It doesn't happen very often. Gator fan was freaking out. Now, I think that there's something to this, but where did it start? That's the one thing a lot of us are having trouble figuring out, Graham.
That's a good question. And I don't think it's one, maybe this isn't the answer everyone wants to hear, but I don't think it's one that everyone's gotten a really good concrete answer on. I think from the people that I've talked to, Kent Fox, the president of the University of Florida, has emphasized over the last year, 2 years, ever since I think it really has come more into the public eye, that there's a lot more that the University of Florida can be doing to minimize maybe some of the anxiety, the racial tension that many people, like you said, may not have realized existed under the surface for a huge demographic of people, but was something that in my talking to people yesterday, there definitely is a small section of people that was aware of the history, was aware of the racial connotation of the phrase, how it was used in the state of Florida in the 20th century. And that I heard from several people yesterday that they were uncomfortable using that chant even at Gator games, which was something, I have to be honest, I had never heard in my entire life. Now, that's not to say it's not true. It's just something that I think everyone is kind of reacting with a little bit of surprise that we've used this chant so much throughout our lives, Florida fans especially, and then have found that it may be offensive to a certain group of people. I think there's a lot of defense absolutely from people where they didn't mean that, and they want to be upfront that that was not their intention, and that they're a little bit surprised, maybe even misled a little bit, that they were doing this chant knowing that it could have had this entirely different connotation to people that they weren't trying to offend. I think that is what Florida is attempting to put a stop to. I think it's important to keep things in context. There were a whole group of Gator fans back from when Steve Spurrier won the Heisman Trophy in the 1960s for about 15 years until the Charlie Pell era, where they didn't do that Gator chomp. It really became prolific during the Jaws era, and then Florida made it official in 1981. But then I know everyone knows about Lawrence Wright doing it in the 95, the 96 seasons, and his statements yesterday saying that it's not racist, it's for the Gators. I had no other connotation but that. I certainly see how this is a divisive topic, but I think in this time, and I'm glad that you brought up Juneteenth, I think it's important for everyone to remember, and I can say this, I think, as a white male, but I think especially for white people out there, it's really important to remember that white people don't decide what offends everyone else, and what may not be offensive to you may have an entirely different connotation or trigger for someone else. And I think that's what Kent Fox is attempting to fix right here. Obviously, in those first 24, 48 hours that this is news, I think there's going to be a lot of heated reactions. But ultimately, I think those Florida fans are going to find that this cheer is not going to stop them from being a Florida fan or being any less of a Gator fan. And just like the Tom Petty tradition that came about after his passing, Florida is going to find something to replace this in a sense. But I just hope that most people don't take away from the educational message Florida is trying to instill by taking this away, and rather make it about cancel culture, PC culture. But I certainly understand that in the day and age that we are in, that inevitably is going to happen. And I think it's important to have a dialogue and a discussion about it at the bare minimum.
He's Graham Hall. He covers the Gators for the Gainesville Sun. You can follow him on Twitter at Graham Hall _. How surprising was yesterday's announcement? Just, was this on a docket? Did people know that this was even being contemplated? I mean, that's another thing that I heard from Gator fans yesterday, that they had no idea that this was even a topic of conversation. So were you even aware that this was on the docket?
I actually was not aware that this was on the docket per se. I think that is kind of one of these journalism follies in a sense, and I'm not coming out here to stay up for the media in any way, but I think that there's this belief that a journalist puts out everything that they know. I'll just tell people from my perspective, I had conversations with another journalist, Zach Abelverdi, who covers the Gators for Rivals, does a terrific job, may ring a few bells for some people. And we had talked over the weekend when some Clemson fans had actually brought it to our attention. I told Zach that I was familiar with it, but when he asked me if I thought that Florida would take any action, this was on Saturday or Sunday of this past weekend, I said I didn't think so. I said what Kent Fox said, that the chant itself, there is no historical evidence that it was tied to any racist behavior by the University of Florida itself. I thought mistakenly at the time that that would be enough and that Florida would attempt to hide behind that. The fact that they admitted that and still said that that's not enough, we're attempting to make amends for the connotation and how it exists in our culture and its history in Florida. That's when I kind of understood a little bit more. But this absolutely was not on our radar, on our docket. I was a little bit surprised that Florida Athletics Director Scott Strickland didn't have a quote ready to go, or that they didn't have other people consulted, because in our work yesterday, we had to reach out to Scott Strickland and reach out to Steve Spurrier and reach out to Lawrence Wright to get their takes on all of this. So absolutely, to your credit, I think that it's fair to say that this blindsided some people, and that's why I think you have a small contingent of people saying, is this decision rushed? Is this the right decision? Those questions I can't answer right now, but it's very possible the University of Florida could have been talking about this for months. Just knowing what I know about their past dealings, for example, when they went to lead the charge behind moving a Confederate statue in downtown Gainesville about 3 or 4 years ago, we found out later that the University of Florida had been dealing with that in the city for numerous years, more than 3 years, trying to find some solution for that. So I can't sit here and say that they haven't made steps, but I think it's very clear from some reaction that this is a blindsiding decision in several ways.
And I think the other part of what happened in the decision that we've not really talked about, because it doesn't affect sport as much, but the other thing that was mentioned in this statement is that Florida is no longer using prison labor for any of their agricultural uses that they had for decades. I mean, there was more to this than just the Gator bait chant. That's what most of us are focusing on, because that's the one that has to do with what happens on Saturdays in the fall, right?
Absolutely. It was a typical Friday news dump. They kind of put that there near the bottom of this three-faceted announcement from President Ken Fox, where Florida said that they would take steps to remove Confederate statues or namings, and that they would work towards sensitivity training for incoming students and employees. I think those are things that didn't get as much coverage because we don't know how those are going to materialize, especially, and I was talking to someone about this yesterday, especially in this day and age where universities are weighing the dilemma of even bringing students back to campus. And now with everything going on top of that, they have to say, hey, how do we fix our curriculum in a sense to broaden our teachings to things that we weren't encompassing before? Those two things that require a balance right now, it's kind of a unique situation in this day and age is what I'm saying. I don't know if they're going to get concrete answers right now for those things, but the Gator bait chant, that is a concrete action that the University of Florida took yesterday. The band's not going to play it anymore. I think my big question, and obviously this will be answered with how many fans are in the stadium in a sense come fall, but my big question is how many Florida fans are going to adhere to something like this. If the university comes out and says that they don't like it for these reasons, and they cite something as the potential racial connotation and it being a trigger for people, I would hope that a lot of people just respect that in a sense. But a lot of Florida fans may remember what happened when the university tried to remove the "Move Back, You Suck" chant a few years ago. It really didn't work in the sense, and Florida brought it back. I don't think that's going to happen here, but I could easily see some resistance in the fall just based on what I've heard already.
Graham, in an earlier answer, you hinted at a couple of things. That one, that some in Florida's athletic department think that this will help them in recruiting, but you also kind of touched upon that in the last couple of years that maybe the black athlete hasn't felt entirely comfortable at the University of Florida. Was there something to that? Because you said that the athletic director and the university president, that this is something that they've been trying to address. Have you had players and athletes say to you that it's not what it should be here.
I've had fans and players specifically and some coaches express different sentiments regarding some of the things that they've heard at the University of Florida. I don't want to sit out here and say that Florida has a problem with those things, or a bigger problem than honestly any other school in the South, if we're going to be honest. But I do think that there exists this aura amongst Black athletes where they are consistently aware that they may be subjected to those things. And when you're already sensitive to these issues or aware of issues that most people around you are not, you're going to just look at different meanings and what people mean by that. I've had people reach out to me and say things that a coach said and how they thought it had a different meaning than really what the coach was inferring. And as an outside party, you don't really know the coach's intentions, the person's intentions, the off-the-field assistant's intentions. I do think that the University of Florida has done a much better job at cleaning up the campus and the people in it so that those things are not a problem at the University of Florida, just from what I understand. I don't want to say that they're not experienced by people, but in terms of have people, players or coaches come to me and said that the Gator bait chant was problematic or that they felt uncomfortable by hearing it, absolutely not. But my response in talking to players yesterday after learning the information, some were appalled. Some said that this should have been taken a lot sooner. Some should have said that they wish that they had been educated. I had one player yesterday tell me that if they knew this, they probably would have reconsidered their recruitment. Those are things that I think will help Florida from a recruiting standpoint. Now that the information is out there, how Florida chooses, the coaching staff chooses to address it, to tackle those issues, whether they own it, I think will absolutely be used as a positive recruiting tool. But coaches know that players' families are listening to see how they react, just like they're listening to Tennessee, Mississippi right now, how they're handling those things. And Georgia, I think that if you were following social media yesterday, there's a lot of people who are realizing just how deplorable the basis for the Georgia state flag really is in a sense. So I think that it's good on Florida for handling one step that they can take right now, because it's clear that they're going to put the pressure on a whole lot of other institutions to clean up their act, or they will reap those recruiting benefits and they will be able to say, hey, we are a little bit holier than thou right now.
You talked with David Sturt, who founded Gator Bait magazine. Did he have any clue when he founded the magazine in 1980? Was he told at any point after founding the magazine in 1980 of what that other connotation was?
When I talked to David yesterday, he said that he found out about 10 minutes before I gave him a call. He said that his son, who played college football as well for Duke University, sent him an article and said, Dad, did you know about this? And he had to sit down and compose himself. David's in his early 60s now, and he said, when I talked to him yesterday, he said that if he had known at the time the possible racial connotations, he probably would have done something different. But I think that David is a good example of the Florida fan dilemma in this sense. When he used the phrase, when he gave it new life, gave it new meaning in a sense, he didn't know any of those things. He didn't know the racial connotation. He heard other fans saying it when he was at a game in 1978, shortly after the Jaws movie. For Florida fans who may remember, the Gator Chomp was originally called the Gator Jaws before John Williams, the composer of that Jaws soundtrack, stepped in and said, hey, we got to fix something here. And then Florida in 1981 debuted the official thing as the Gator Chomp. His magazine ran for 40 years and still running today. And a guy who is on the internet all day, writing all day, cannot find out about this. I do think it sums up how few people really knew, because of this guy who named his magazine after it, didn't know. But certainly I think that he's part of the dilemma of people who really were trying to give it its own different meaning. But some words, some phrases, especially based on where you are in the country and being in Florida, I think that is important to remember that if we were in Wyoming and this had happened in Florida, I think that the response would have been far different. But that's not the case here. And that's why I think that his reaction was, I probably would have done something different, knowing how many millions of people it could trigger in this state.
Graham, look forward to talking to you again. And next time we talk, hopefully it is about the season starting and just how many people are going to be allowed to be in the stands.
I hope so. Thanks so much for having me here, y'all. Great conversation. I really hope that we get a full season because I know Florida fans, they want their attention turned back to the opportunity at hand.
Graham Hall covers the Gators for the Gainesville Sun. Follow Graham on Twitter at @GrahamHall_. Graham, thanks so much. Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Well, I will say, and earlier in the show, I had said I did not see the connection. To me, there was a disconnect that this was a reach. All right. Every hour that goes by, the more I hear, the more, okay, all right. But yesterday, I got to admit, floored me.
I guess it didn't floor me. I'm not one that gets into cheers. But John had sent it to the two of us. Within 5 minutes, I got the same text from 8 people, all diehard Gator fans, all pissed.
Right.
I didn't respond to any of them. Did you see this? Every answer was the same. Yep. Nothing else. Then I just sat down and started reading and starting to try to figure something out. And that's why the question I asked of Graham was, when did this get brought up? And we still don't really have much of a definitive answer other than it has been.
It was a very fascinating 3-part release that they sent out yesterday, this getting all the attention. But you could argue the other 2 parts of it were bigger.
Yes.
But this tugs at the emotions of the fan base and the boosters far more. Graham Hall, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. A terrific show to wrap up our week. And we'll do so next with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Dan Patrick at the top of the hour here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
Vic Fangio is the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and he had this to say.
I don't see racism at all in the NFL. I don't see discrimination in the NFL.
He does know where the NFL was trying to incentivize teams to bring in African-American coaches, and you would get a better draft pick. There is racism.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
We know Southwest Florida is Gulf Shore strong, and as businesses continue to reopen and try to get back to normalcy, we want to hear from you. Call us at 479-5577, 479-5577. Tell us the name and location of your business, and let us know that you're back and rooting for Southwest Florida.
My name's Gator Pat. I handle and train alligators at Corey Billy's Airboat Ride.
No one roots harder for Southwest Florida than Fox Sports Radio.
We are Fox Sports. For professional roofing, the name you need to know
Not our doing.
is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau.
Can't you tell? That's the promo that we play after that article. Are you effing kidding me?
A lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm.
Are you effing kidding me?
For a free inspection.
You want to talk about rich?
DRM Roofing, or call 239-332-1441.
Number CCC 13269.
I got nothing, man.
That's a good point.
Holy blank.
A leaky roof is never a good thing, especially when it's only
So
a
if
year
you're
old.
running Gator Bait magazine, do you change it?
Yes.
Like so many homeowners in Southwest
I
Florida,
wouldn't.
I don't know.
Got a new roof after a
I
hurricane
mean,
damaged the
I
area.
don't know.
Just a year later.
Well, right, because you know who your audience is.
Well, yeah. And from a business standpoint, I'm just,
I don't even know what to do.
I mean, you're in business.
News does solving contractor complaints tonight on Wink News at 6.
Listen to Miller and Moulton at home on your Amazon Alexa. Just say, Alexa.
Receiving. Over.
Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
We are Fox Sports.
Attention, Southwest Florida.
I mean, that player who's got that line of clothing or whatever.
He's
he's about to come out with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Over Kelly Blue Book value for your
this just made him money.
I think so.
Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at NaplesNissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your
Pretty good
trade-in.
week.
And we'll give you
I thought we did
$8,000
too.
more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000. If KBB says $10,000, we'll give you $18,000. You must act fast, though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health.
Got anything going
During
on
these
this weekend?
stressful times, your mood is so critical.
No,
and
he's
nothing's
got to
more
work
important to a guy's
tomorrow,
mood
so
than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood. And the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are
Melissa
grumpy when they start, and
gets in
most can't believe how much
2
their
o'clock
mood improves once they
or
get
so
treated.
today.
And everything improves once your mood improves.
So then you guys will go out to dinner a couple times, go out shopping.
Right.
I've been a patient.
You got a big weekend planned that the three of you are going to sit around the house and decide who's going to go get taken.
Now I have the
Yeah,
energy to work out from
pretty
home,
much.
and that'll put you in a good mood too.
Although tomorrow we're going to have 10 people over this
Express
house.
treatment plan is convenient,
We're going to have
affordable, and above all safe.
the
And with
family
locations all up and down West Florida. There's one near you right
and
now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
3 kids
From
and a
the
friend.
best headlines, the best
along with
to
the
the
mom.
worst.
So
It's
that's
the worst
5.
thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
Mother-in-law,
Prepare
2 of us,
yourself
2 of them.
and
We'll have
hide
10
the
people
women
there.
and children. This is
Guys,
Mark
step
Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
For the good today, it's a follow-up of another good.
Oh, follow-up, Mark. People love follow-ups.
I know. You remember Antonio Gwynn Jr.? He was the Buffalo teenager who cleaned up his neighborhood after the protest and ended up with a car and a scholarship.
Right.
Well, got another job. The mayor, Byron Brown, has offered the teen a job in the city's building department. His new job, he's going to study business, hopes to one day own a cleaning company. Said he was pretty excited. He didn't have a plan. This helps me put more of my life ahead. So look at this kid. Car, a scully, and a job for cleaning up the neighborhood.
Damn, they never said that, back in the 70s when they were encouraging us to pick up our litter. I mean, they were just trying to encourage us to do the right thing. They didn't say it came with perks.
Come on, we all know there's only one littering commercial we all remember. The Native American crying.
Right.
That's it. It was on during Sunday football so much you could not escape that commercial. All the trash everywhere. That's why we have recycled cans in Michigan, David. Cleaned up the highways. For the bad, we go to McDonald's, where apparently workers in Oakland, and I think we need to get to the bottom of this, but apparently workers in McDonald's were told for face coverings that they were told to use either doggy diapers or coffee filters. 4 workers have been infected with COVID-19 and are suing the franchise.
Wait a minute. What?
Health officials, want people to use face coverings. Apparently, workers at a McDonald's in Oakland were told they were suggested using doggy diapers or coffee filters for their face coverings. They wouldn't give masks. They told them to use these. That's what they're saying. Telling you, David, there will be a follow-up.
Yes, there will, and especially since the governor of California, as of yesterday, ordered everybody to start wearing masks again.
By the way, Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't retweet it fast enough saying it's the right thing. Just,
Did
Republican governor, Democrat governor, just for what it's worth.
Right. Did you see what Key West did yesterday?
I did not.
Key West mandated that if you are inside in a business, restaurant, what have you, for the next year, you have to wear a mask. Through June of 2021, Key West declared yesterday.
How do you drink?
How
do I eat and drink with a mask on? When someone can explain that to me, let me know.
Maybe, I don't know if there's an allowance for a restaurant. I guess when you're not eating, you got to have the mask on. I don't know. I'm assuming restaurants are part of it because it said for indoor businesses. I would think a restaurant would count.
Seems like an indoor business to me, and one where lots of people gather.
Yeah, especially in Key West.
For the ugly, we go to Cape Coral. And I know that seems obvious to most of you, but we actually have a story behind it.
Stop it.
Cape Coral police arrested a man after he said he got in a fight with his neighbor. He bit the neighbor, beat him in the back with a broomstick, and then threatened him with a pickaxe.
Wait. Hold on. Beat him
with a broomstick, and threatened him with a pickaxe.
Damn.
Tyler McHugh was also accused of shoulder checking another person during the fight.
Well, no offense, a shoulder check compared to a broom and a pickaxe.
Well, that was it. That was another party. He was wounded in the fight, leaving with a Band-Aid above his eye, as you could tell in his mugshot that I am checking out online. He looks like a wonderful kid, someone that every mother would be very proud of. That is the good, the bad, and the pickaxe ugly. All today on June 19th, 2020.
You know, you don't run across that very often. Hey, I nearly got in a fight today. Oh, really? Yeah, guy had a pickaxe. You don't hear about that very often. I mean, you know, sometimes you have to avoid a left and a right. Maybe somebody would grab something, but exactly. Mark now has an axe in his hand.
I have a pickaxe in my hand. I own a pickaxe. The only reason I do is this was from the original ice-breaking ceremony at then Everblades Arena. Spray-painted gold by me.
Nice. And goodness knows the two of us have threatened each other with violence many times, but you have never even threatened me with a pickaxe.
No, and it's sitting in the studio, and Lord knows I could most every day that you're here. It's really just a prop.
Reached over with the left hand.
It's really just a prop. It's heavy, too. Might go swing the pickaxe for a little bit this afternoon.
You know, my wife has a hammer next to her in the bed, okay, which she can just reach down and grab.
Right.
And so it's another reason why, you know, I don't go near her, because I'm afraid that she'll just, you know, stick the hammer in my forehead.
For the record, if you want to do some gambling today, NBCSN already rolling with Royal Ascot Day from across the pond horse racing. Premier League, 12:30 on NBCSN. And the Heritage kicks off coverage at 3 p.m. today. How about that?
How about that?
Sounds like there's actually sports going on, David.
And tomorrow, the Belmont. I'm going with Dr. Post at 5-1.
I'm going with the favorite. 'Tis the law, baby. 'Tis the law.
Kurt Becker went with Sol Volante.
Have a great weekend.
It's Fred Kobe.
Okay, you guys have a good weekend and happy Father's Day. See you on Monday.
Thanks, Jiro. If you are a dad, the same to you, my friend.
Right now for experienced install crews.
Thanks for everything this week, and we got a couple of days off next week.
Top benefits, a 401k plan.
All right, Jiro.